Juno was a failed Asian wrestler who worked at a construction site, until one day he fell from a building and time-traveled 30 years back to the day of his wrestling entrance exam. With 25 years of experience trapped in his young body, Juno vowed to rewrite his failure and become the greatest wrestler in history, teaming up with future legends like John Cena and Russell Hart to dominate the ring. However, before any of this, at a professional wrestling ring, a guy with an absolutely muscular body shows off some really amazing wrestling moves on the mat that surprises every single person watching him perform. The people in the crowd wonder to themselves about how an Asian professional player is doing these kinds of special moves with so much skill, and they keep thinking about how it is possible that he is just an independent player without any big company support. At that moment, another really massive-looking guy walks into the wrestling ring and says that it has been a pretty long time since someone as crazy and skilled as this wrestler has come around to fight. This whole thing is happening on June 4, 2002, which is the same day when the young boy takes a really important test that might change his entire life forever and completely. Right now, with all the experience and skills of being a 25-year veteran professional wrestler, the big, massive guy decides and makes up his mind to beat up and take down the guy who is standing right in front of him inside the ring. As it turns out, every single person living on this planet has a dream that is pretty close to being a delusion, but in this specific guy's case, his biggest dream happens to be professional wrestling, and ever since he is a young kid growing up. He really wants to stand tall and proud and be loved and respected by everyone as a world champion in the wrestling business. He believes that the fancy appearance is just there for the gimmick and show, the over-the-top and exaggerated acting they perform with all the microphone work in a match where the winner and loser have already been decided and planned out beforehand. From the very start to the very finish, they are all considered to be fake and scripted, but they show and demonstrate all of that hard work with their actual bodies and physical effort. The special day when someone stands in the middle of the ring with so much pride after winning a big match now has absolutely nothing to do with him anymore and is just a distant memory. At a busy construction site, some hardworking workers are doing their jobs in a broken down and ruined area where an old geezer asks another worker why his facial expression looks like that, as if he has just seen some kind of scary boogeyman. The other worker asks what a boogeyman is supposed to be or mean, but the old geezer just explains that it is just a simple conversation starter to break the awkward ice between them. Another guy who is working nearby then asks the old geezer what kind of complete and total nonsense he is planning to talk about and discuss now, and he also mentions that he has heard from other people that the guy working with them used to be a professional wrestler a long time ago. The old geezer responds and says that it happened a while ago in the past, and if the guy had just thrown away that prejudice and negative thinking and tried really hard to show the entire world what he truly has inside of him, the world would have definitely recognized him and given him the respect he deserves. While he is kicking the work basket with his foot, the guy's foot suddenly slips on something, and he loses his balance and falls down from the tall building. Unexpectedly, the guy travels back in time. 30 years ago, in 2002, when all of America was in a crisis due to the scorching hot weather, the Korean player lived as an indie player and took photos with other players and fans. So, now the old geezer actually acme back to his old life, and he can't believe it's really possible. He thinks that 30 years ago today was the day the WWF held a test for the trainees, and with 25 years of polished experience and skill, he was the best younger body that can use all of it. He believes that if he used these and try again, it might be different from last time. At the same time, a guy outside the washroom asks Juno to come out because he has to go inside urgently. The guy that's outside the door right now was someone he spent his 20s with as a crazy guy who tricked him and got him in trouble with the older guys. Later that same day, Juno decides to visit and check out the world's best and most famous pro wrestling group, which is the WWF-affiliated promotion group that everyone talks about. Juno thinks to himself that there have been a lot of different occurrences and situations where players who went through this place and trained here became huge stars in the industry, and out of all of them, the best main character of that specific era ends up being John Cena himself. At that moment, John Cena walks up and approaches Juno in a way that surprises him and catches him off guard, but John Cena asks him if he came to this place alone by himself. Juno responds and says no, he actually came with a friend, but his friend had a really bad case of diarrhea and couldn't make it inside. Juno then asks John Cena if he is feeling nervous too about the upcoming test, but John Cena admits and says that he is definitely nervous and thinks that the rope rebound move might be a bit difficult and challenging for him to perform. Juno tells John Cena not to worry about anything at all and assures him that all the judges are going to be really impressed by his amazing body and physique. John Cena then asks Juno if he can go along with him since they both came to this place alone without anyone else, so they should help each other out and support one another. Juno responds and says that from this point forward, the things he needs to do and accomplish have already been decided and planned out in his mind. All he has to do right now is pass this important test with the future icon John Cena and become really good friends with him after everything is done. 1 hour later, everyone finally gets on the wrestling ring to wait, but Sean tells Juno that it has already been an entire hour and the examiner still hasn't arrived or shown up yet. Juno says that they are making them wait on purpose as a strategy because it is sort of like a test of patience and mental strength. He explains and tells Sean that in this wrestling industry, they want and look for a wild performance or act for entertainment, but they don't want people that actually act like that in real life outside the ring. Right at that moment, a massive-looking guy enters into the ring, and everyone present there is surprised to see him, thinking to themselves that he might be the supervisor. However, the supervisor is furious, so he grabs one of the guys by his shoulder and throws high off the ring. He then destroys the other 2 rookies as well and says that they only look tough on the surface. The supervisor then tells everyone that they are decorating their muscles and wearing weird clothes. He further adds that some of them here probably once aspiring NFL tacklers, but they had to quit because they couldn't even remember the few tactics there were. The supervisor is a former professional wrestler who comes from the Kingdom of Tonga, and he is the GCW Athlete Management Director whose ring name is known as Baku to everyone. He was really good at wrestling and performing in matches, but there was another specific reason why he was so famous and well known, and that was for his incredible practical fighting ability in real combat. He simply laughs off and ignores a police club hitting him and can use just 2 of his fingers to completely crush someone's front teeth with ease. Baku then tells everyone present that the basic skills test starts right now and everyone needs to participate in the test to show what they can do. It is John Cena's turn to go first, and he then gets slammed hard to the ring floor, and that is the main reason why all skills in professional wrestling cannot be established without proper breakfalls. That is exactly why it is a skill that is much more important to them than breathing itself. Now, it is finally Juno's turn to perform and demonstrate his abilities, and Baku is quite impressed with his muscular physique and body and tells him to go up to the ring and show them what he has got in terms of skills. Juno then shows his first move to everyone watching, but Baku tells him that it is not good enough for a passing grade and that he should come down from the ring right now. However, Juno replies back and say that it is not enough yet as he will try performing it again to prove himself better. Juno then demonstrates and shows another move that is quite amazing and spectacular that it gets everyone's complete attention and makes them stare at him. Seeing that impressive performance, Baku also gets in the ring himself and says out loud that it looks like Juno is someone who is good enough and skilled enough to experience his real skills firsthand. Baku tells him to keep going and continue with his moves, but Juno wonders to himself if he just made a big mistake by catching his attention. Instead of saying something, Baku quickly pushes Juno towards the rope, and when he bounces back from the ropes, he just uses his arm strength alone to push Juno down to the ground where he lands a perfect break fall. After that, Baku grabs his leg and arm at the same time and lifts him up so easily and effortlessly that it surprises Juno, who cannot believe in his mind how Baku didn't even put in much strength or effort, yet he still lifted him like he weighs nothing at all. Baku then performs a body slam move on Juno and slams him hard to the ground, which leaves everyone watching in complete shock and disbelief at what just happened. Juno then slowly turns his head around while on the ground and asks Baku directly if he is just going to keep staring at him like that. Hearing that bold response from him, Baku gets even more excited and pumped up and tells Juno that he has managed to pass the difficult test successfully. On the other hand, everyone else present there is in complete disbelief and shock, and they think to themselves that it felt like they were watching a real TV show or performance just now in front of them. Later that day, during his shower, Juno cannot believe that this is actually happening to him in real life and prays to himself that if this is just a dream, he should never wake up from it at all. He further thinks to himself that cold Baku actually acknowledged and recognized his skills and abilities, and the next few exams and tests won't be so different or difficult, but he still thinks that not everything feels completely right to him. Juno leaves the shower room while thinking to himself if he forgot something important, but on his way out he runs into and bumps into the other wrestlers who failed the test today. He thinks to himself that most of them are bodybuilders whose muscles are absolutely massive and huge, but it also reduces their flexibility and stamina for wrestling moves significantly. Juno then finds and spots John Cena nearby and asks him how he ended up failing the test, so Cena explains to him that his break fall technique was a complete mess, so Baku said that he didn't stand a real chance this year at all. Juno realizes in his mind that the time when Cena will pass the test successfully is 1 full year from now, and this year's failure spurred him on and motivated him to train even harder for next time. Juno also believes that if it was the original future timeline and if it was life exactly how it was before, he should have failed the test, but he passed perfectly this time around. Juno then asks him what he is going to do when he go back, so he says that he is going to get a job as a trainer again. Hearing that, Juno says that he should wait a bit before he leave and tells him to get a trainer job here. Juno then tells John Cena to become his training partner, and that way he can also plan and prepare for his next year's test as well with proper preparation. Having a training partner is really important because matching the sum and chemistry in professional wrestling is so important and crucial, as everyone has at least one TP to work with regularly. The GCW organization is so considerate and understanding that they let aspiring students each take the important test and be accompanied by their TP during their tests for support. Later on, Juno and John Cena approach Baku together and tell him about their plan and idea for training together. Juno tells Baku directly that even though Cena may have a few flaws and weaknesses in his technique, he is definitely talented and has potential, and if he gains some real experience and practice, he will definitely show a lot of growth and improvement. Hearing that explanation from Juno, Baku tells them to do whatever they want to do and signs the official contract to let Cena be Juno's training partner for the upcoming year. After that, Cena and Juno trained together regularly by sharing their knowledge and techniques with each other, and they started off with specialized training sessions and even had a systematic and strict diet plan to follow. A few weeks later, Baku trains everyone like a maniac, but some other players talks about a guy named Russell Hart. They say that he comes from a pro wrestling family. Later at Fitness Room, Russell approaches Juno and they come face to face with each other, which makes everyone think that they might fight, but they just shake hand. It turns out, there are a lot of macho-like men with huge muscles and tough attitudes in the professional wrestling industry these days. The man standing in front of Juno right now is the legitimate heir to the professional wrestling noble Hart family that everyone knows about. Juno then tells Russell that it is an honor and privilege to meet a member of the famous family in person, but Juno then wonders to himself what Russell's facial expression means and if he doesn't actually like his own family for some reason. Juno then introduces John Cena to Russell and explains that Cena wasn't able to make the cut and pass the test this year, so he is his training partner to prepare and get ready for next year's test coming up. Russell then tells Baku that if he put his body's flexibility aside and change his mindset instead, he will be much better. In other words, it's not about avoiding getting hurt, he should think of conditioning his body to know where it hurts least. After that, the three of them begins training together and Russell tells Cena that the last one he just did was the best and he just need to remember that feeling. Seeing that, Juno thinks that Cena changed that much with just a few words from him. Later that night, Juno tells Cena that it looks like he got a lot better at breakfalls today, but Cena doesn't sound that happy today about it. Cena asks him if he think he really will be able to use those skills as his body is a bit too stiff. Juno tells him that he would be able to pull through just by using slam skills properly as he is a powerhouse. However, Cena doesn't know or understand what that type is, so Juno explains to him that it is a professional wrestler type and category, and among all of them, the ones who are most similar to him and who show great physical strength are called the powerhouse type. Cena asks Juno about what his own type is, so Juno says and explains that his type is the brawler because they are aggressive fighters who use rough tactics, and it is all because of Russell Hart's influence and help. He explains and tells Cena that for the test's final stage and examination, the applicants will have to battle against each other in matches, and he chose the brawler style to make sure that they would be saved and protected during fights. From that specific day forward, Juno, Sean and Russell all began to share tips and advice with each other about different things like training routines, diet plans and how to organize and create their unique gimmicks and characters. Baku then began to finally acknowledge and recognize Cena's hard work and improvements, and then, some amount of time had passed by when Baku brought some new clothes and outfits and told everyone present to dress up like real wrestlers for their presentations. After that, a guy with glasses takes everyone's interview of every player in the room. Lastly, Juno gives the interview and tells everyone that he wants to be the star of this company, but the guy asks Baku where he found a treasure like Juno in a world like this. 1 full month later, Juno is going against Russell in the wrestling ring for a match, and before even the bell rings to start, Juno quickly jumps in the field and tries to mess with Russell and get in his head. 1 month ago, Russell approaches Baku and asks him why someone like him who is from the famous Hart family is not passing the test successfully. Everyone around them thinks that it is probably difficult for Baku as well, since there isn't really a problem with Russell's gimmick in general, and he can't just suddenly ask him to add something new or different to his character. Baku tells Russell that they should talk about this later because he needs to check the next person and their performance now. After that, Cena enters the room wearing a cap on his head, and he even brought a microphone with him to give a speech and perform. Cena then tells everyone watching that he is a cyborg sent from the future and tells everyone to look at and admire his well-proportioned muscular body and physique. He says out loud that he can destroy his enemies with absolutely no mercy at all, and it was a body that is made specifically for that exact purpose. He tells everyone to listen that they all have trashy and weak bodies, so they are bound to fail in the industry as they are always drinking cola and junk drinks. Baku thinks to himself that it is a special talent called mic work, which is like showcasing themselves to the entire audience by spouting words and trash talk, and making the crowd go wild and crazy to the point where it makes their spirit leave their body completely. Cena was a powerful speaker with natural charisma, and during his prime years, he was an absolute genius at that particular sort of thing and performance. Earlier that day, Juno told Sean to try something that is better for his body and health, as if they want to build a body like that and achieve results, they need to repeat the same exact workout every single day like a cold machine without stopping. Back in the present, Baku excitedly tells Sean Cena that he passed the test successfully, and it seems like he was lucky enough to make a decent gimmick and character for himself. Baku then turns his attention to Russell and asks him if he has anything more to show and demonstrate to everyone, but Russell says that he will go up to the ring as well to perform. Russell then grabs the microphone tightly and loudly tries to say that he is the Hart family something special, but Juno quickly interferes and interrupts him and says out loud that he is actually the Hart family's copycat instead. It turns out that the Hart family's rightful successor, Russell Hart, was special and talented, but not unique or different from others, and after debuting in the WWF organization, he couldn't grow fast enough to match everyone's high expectations, so he got pushed around and ignored during certain fights and events. The main reason for that disappointing result was because of his uncle, Greg Hart, who was already established. He had an uncle with the exact same concept and skills that were far better than his own abilities, so there wouldn't be a good reason for them to keep pushing for Russell, who came after his uncle and lived in his shadow. Juno then asks everyone if he said something wrong, and he just spoke the truth that Russell already knows about. Hearing that, Russell gets furious and tells Juno to stop talking and come up to the ring if he has a problem. Afterward, Juno gets on the stage where Russell asks him if he really thinks that he is just a copycat of his uncle and nothing more, but Juno says back that he is an inferior copy who is bad at imitating him at that level. Cena then yells at Juno loudly, saying that he is being too mean and harsh at this point in the argument. After that heated moment, Juno and Russell continue arguing with each other back and forth, which makes Cena wonder to himself if they are actually acting or being serious, because Juno told him before that he is going to face Russell in the ring for real. Russell then tells Juno directly that he wants to pass on the legacy and tradition of the Harts to the future generation of wrestlers coming up, but Juno says back to him confidently that he will crush that dream of his completely and totally. Hearing that, Russell tells him to set the date and time so they can face each other in the ring. After that intense exchange, Baku tells both of them that their acting performance was absolutely brilliant and convincing to watch. It turns out, they were doing something called a ring segment, which is an act where one or more athletes come into the ring to add more depth and drama to the story, and it is usually done with a thorough script that is planned beforehand. Baku then tells Russell that he passes the test successfully, and with that final performance, the gimmick practice session comes to an end for everyone. After that, the rumor of Juno fighting with Russell went around the entire company and everyone started talking about it. Later on, during the ride, Juno wonders to himself why Russell looks so sad and down, so he wonders if he really feels hurt, even though he knows that it is only an act. Juno then asks Baku where they are all going right now, so Baku tells him that they are going to a mart because after this week's training sessions are done, they are going to get some food and supplies. Juno then says casually that Russell should drink some cocoa or something to feel better, but then, Russell asks him back what kind of cocoa he is talking about exactly. Both of them start joking around with each other playfully. After a while of driving, they finally arrive at the mart where they all notice some bullies beating up a young boy badly. Juno thinks to himself that they won't be involved in this situation if they just report it to the police quietly. But the problem is that Baku really hates these kinds of things happening. Juno stops Baku and tells him that they should just leave it to the cops to handle, but then, he hears a woman crying loudly for help as some thugs try to kill her violently. The woman begs and pleads for mercy for her kids and children, but then, Juno and the others quickly arrive at the scene and beat up the thugs to save her. On the other hand, Baku beats up the other thugs as well. After teaching them a painful lesson, Baku says that people like them who find enjoyment and pleasure out of bullying the weak and defenseless are the absolute worst kind of people. So, if there is one thing these guys are actually useful for, it is the fact that no matter how hard they use their skills and strength on them, they don't have anyone to blame for their injuries. Juno then hears the woman and her children crying desperately for help as her husband is still injured and bleeding badly. The woman then quickly runs to the mart to get some medicine and first aid supplies for him, but Juno looks down at the man's identification card and realizes that he is actually a reporter by profession. He thinks to himself that this might be a great opportunity for them to get some publicity. A few days later, the same reporter visits the gym to meet with Juno and Russell in person, introducing himself politely as Robin Connor to everyone there. The reporter says that in return the favor, he wanted to write an article about them in their newspaper, but GCW General Director says that it's not enough. He tells the reporter to write a professional article about pro wrestling after watching the match, but the reporter asks what he is going to show him. The director says that he should watch Juno and Russell's match as they promised before, but Baku tries to tell him that they have only done gimmick training so far, but the reporter and director both say that it is a perfect opportunity to showcase them. The director then tells Baku to get Juno and Russell ready and prepared as they are going to conduct and film the match in the afternoon today. Afterward, Baku says to them that they don't have much time left, so they should decide their plans quickly and efficiently. Juno realizes in his mind that normally Baku would have a lot of faith and confidence in them, but since things turned out like this out of nowhere and unexpectedly, he looks uneasy and worried about the outcome. However, Juno has already dealt with something like this a while ago in his previous life and experience. He tells Baku confidently that he is going with Juno as his ring name for simplicity and ease, and for his finishing move and signature attack, he will go with a knee kick technique to end matches. Baku thinks to himself that it would be too weak and not impressive enough because he thought Juno would use something like the Northern Lights bomb move he performed and did last time. Juno says back that it is too dangerous to do regularly, and he doesn't know about Russell, who was upset about something earlier, but he said he will take care of it on his own terms. Baku then tells him firmly to not actually end up fighting for real while doing the performance and leaves the room. Juno then enters Russell's room and says to him that the match is going to start soon, so they should decide between themselves who is going to win the match. Sometime later, the match between both players begins with them rushing towards each other with intensity and aggression. Russell then jumps up to lock up and hold their position in a grapple, but Juno hits him hard using a knee attack on his body. Russell then gets knocked to the ground, so Juno quickly taps him lightly, so that he can get out of the position, but Baku wonders to himself if the match barely started and he is already doing a finishing move this early. A finishing move is the strongest skill used at the end of a match to secure victory, just like the name indicates clearly. Russell then manages to grab the rope desperately, so the referee tells Juno to break him free and let go of the hold. Everyone watching then wonders and thinks that Russell got hit by a strong move, and it really looks like he is struggling to break free from the pain. Juno then tells Russell quietly that he is going to let it slide this one time, but they should try performing it again properly. Meanwhile, Baku thinks to himself about the elite family heir, Russell, and the backstreet veteran fighter, Juno, competing against each other. He felt that way the first time he saw them both perform, but he didn't understand why exactly, and as expected, no matter who wins this match, it is a satisfactory match concept for everyone. Russell and Juno once again charge at each other aggressively, holding each other's necks tightly, and everyone thinks to themselves that even from the side angle, Russell's build looks really good and impressive, so he is on the favorable side to win. The umpire then restrains both of them physically and says out loud that it is a foul against the rules. However, the umpire's restraint caused Russell to lose his momentum and timing completely, creating an opening for Juno, who kicks him right on his face with tremendous force. After that powerful and brutal strike, Juno keeps on hitting Russell like a complete maniac without stopping at all, and in the end, he performs a vertical suplex move that scares and shocks the reporter who is watching nervously. Russell then falls hard on the ground with impact, and Juno doesn't even stop there as he keeps on kicking and hitting Russell repeatedly without any mercy. Seeing that violent display, everyone watching is stunned and shocked, and thinks that this is a harsh rebuke towards the arrogant bad guy who doesn't know when to stop attacking, and towards the athlete who can do nothing but suffer. They feel a sense of pity and sympathy. However, Russell doesn't give up that easily as he grabs Juno's leg tightly and smashes him on the ground with his remaining strength. Afterward, Russell attacks aggressively, but Juno dodges the move and pulls Russell down to the ground with a counter. Juno then manages to get away from there and create some distance, but Russell kicks him hard on his knee joint and then hits him on his head with force. Seeing that tactical move, Baku thinks to himself that this match was Russell's overwhelming victory so far, so he wonders if Russell kicked intentionally on Juno's leg to show how on guard he is about Juno's dangerous knee kick finishing move. He thinks to himself that Russell knows how to target the weak points of his opponent strategically, and compared to his uncle who seeks fairness in matches, Russell gives off a totally different vibe and fighting style. Russell then manages to use his special move successfully and hits Juno's head hard to the ground with impact. Juno then quickly hits Russell's face with a strike and escapes from the lock and submission hold. After that moment, he charges at Russell to hit him with another attack, but Russell just kicks him hard on his face to counter. Russell then throws Juno to the ground forcefully and uses a sharpshooter technique on his leg, which makes Juno scream loudly like a child without a toy or a game. The umpire then asks Juno directly if he is going to surrender and give up against the Hart family's ultimate move and submission hold, but Juno wonders to himself if he should forfeit here or if he should hold out and continue fighting. The crowd starts cheering loudly for Russell and supporting him enthusiastically, and Baku thinks to himself that even though it is just a rookies match between beginners, he wonders what could happen next because it is unpredictable and exciting. However, Juno grabs Russell's leg with determination and strength, and throws him on the ground with tremendous force, and then, he quickly does a powerful knee strike directly on his face to finish him off completely. Juno then throws Russell down hard on the ground one more time and does a finishing move successfully, and he manages to win the match against him. Later on, Baku asks Juno seriously if he really hurt his legs during the match, But Juno says back that it was just to sell the act and make it look realistic, but Baku starts laughing out loud and asks who does something crazy like that in a match like this, as they should not do something like this when they haven't even signed a contract yet with the company. Just then, Russell also enters the locker room behind them, and both of them hugged each other warmly, saying they did their absolute best today and performed well. A guy then informs Russell and Juno to come outside quickly as the director is calling them urgently. The current director of GCW and a professional wrestler in the 1970s era, Harley Lacey, after his retirement from active competition, he has been training juniors here at the gym while enjoying his old age peacefully. The director tells Juno and Russell that they did a great job and performed wonderfully, but Juno thinks to himself that it is a scene he never would have dreamed of happening in his past life. In the past at WWF, GCW, and everywhere else he competed, he was a complete loser and failure, but now he is completely victorious in every single way possible. The reporter then tells them that he enjoyed watching the match very much, but he asks them that if kids and children were to watch this match, what lesson they would learn from it exactly. He explains to them that when people hear the word pro wrestling mentioned, the first things they think of are violent and dangerous actions and images. Juno then replies thoughtfully that the end goal in pro wrestling is always for the good side to win eventually. He further adds that he might have won, but people will expect Russell, who's upright and righteous, to defeat evil, and pro wrestling is a dangerous sport, but that makes it more engaging. Shortly after the intense match, the number of aspirants kept decreasing steadily over time, and then there were only 4 people left remaining: Juno and Russell, John Cena, and Eddie. Later on, Baku tells Juno that from now on, he will officially sign a contract with GCW to train professionally, and he is going to train him with the intention and goal of making him the future WWF World Champion someday. Baku then shows the official contract to him and tells Juno to write down the amount he wants as a down payment for signing. Juno at first writes down $100 billion as a joke, but Baku just tears the paper up immediately, so he begs him desperately to make the down payment $20,000 instead. Baku tells Juno to write down $30,000 as the amount because he thinks that he has twice more talent than Samoa Joe does. Baku then shows him a really nice article that the reporter wrote about them and their match. The guys are surprised by the news that they are going to be performing on a TV show, and Baku says gloomily that they are already sufficiently prepared for this kind of thing. Juno thinks to himself that they still need to study for at least 6 months before they are ready, so how come they are being called to appear on television right now out of nowhere? Baku gloomily replies that most likely there is a call to the television from someone above, and he demands that the guys do not talk too much at the show when they appear. After the last fight with Russell, the performance in the show can be considered as a full-fledged debut for them, but it is really strange that beginners can get into the real ring so quickly like this. Experienced fighters are the ones who are usually called to the show in the WWF, not newcomers like them. Juno wonders if they need to come up with new tricks to perform because he feels like he needs to show something unique to stand out. The script writers approach them and say that there is very little time left, so they have to work quickly to get everything ready. They separate the guys and go to their offices to discuss plans. Juno looks longingly at the screenwriter, who has a whole plan in his hands already prepared. The screenwriter asks Juno if he is going to come up with a pseudonym for himself to use. Juno knows he needs a pseudonym because the company has the right to the fighter pseudonyms, and if a fighter decides to use his real name instead, the company changes the spelling to take over the rights to it. Juno thinks his name is difficult to pronounce and remember for the audience, but he wonders just what kind of pseudonym he should come up with for himself. The scriptwriter, without waiting for an answer from him, says that the image of Juno as a street wrestler is too flat and boring, because all the bad guys look the same and it is not interesting to the public at all. Juno clenches his hands tightly so as not to hit the screenwriter, who has talked crap about his image, and he politely asks which image would suit him better then. The screenwriter happily says that the image of a thief who would steal a champion's belt would be very suitable for him. Juno's eyes widen in disbelief, and he says it sounds childish, like a cartoon for kids. The screenwriter says that the grotesque is now in fashion and people like that style, but Juno thinks that he is communicating with an idiot who doesn't understand anything. Although in professional wrestling the fighters have to collaborate with each other constantly because the shows come out every week, it is impossible to work well together with someone like this. He says that Rock Cold, for example, has a wonderful image that people love, so maybe he should think in this direction instead. The writer responds that Juno is not Rock Cold at all here and should not try to copy him. Juno cannot stand it anymore and openly calls the screenwriter an idiot to his face. Now the screenwriter's eyes widen in shock at what he just hears. Juno approaches the scriptwriter and stares at him menacingly with an intense look, and he shouts that he will not allow anyone to not listen to his wishes and make a fool out of him in front of everyone. The screenwriter shouts that the idea is great and prepares for death from Juno. A minute later, Juno calmly walks away from the guy and asks how he likes his game and performance, and the writer says that in reality Juno can be really intimidating when he wants to be. In the evening, Baku and Juno stand on the roof and Baku asks how everything goes with the meeting. Juno says they come to an agreement about things. Baku says that they will send more fighters to the show because the ratings must be crazy high right now, and although the GCW is originally a subsidiary of the WWF, it is the one that most often organizes the show, so therefore they are very worried about ratings and viewership. Juno asks Baku if he wants to know what they should do to improve ratings even more. Baku listens and leads him to Harley to discuss it. There Juno reiterates that they need competition to make things interesting, and he says that everyone loves to watch a competition, not a show with a predetermined ending that feels fake. Harley asks how then to determine the champions if everything is competitive. Juno replies that it is based on skill just like they determine the winner in any other sport, like the player who scores the most points as in basketball, the most skilled player on the team like kayakers, or the best defensive player in American football. In professional wrestling, its popularity is what matters, the one who can be most remembered in a short time, a talent that makes people root for him and support him. He continues that on the day of the show all battles will end in a draw, and the fierce struggle of the athletes towards the end of the game will only increase the value of the championships and the expectations of the audience for future matches. Harley asks how many fighters can take part in the show at once. The manager replies that there are about 20 people available. Harley says there will be 16 including Russell and Juno in the competition. The manager does not understand how to fit the new format into airtime because it is impossible to play out 8 fights in half an hour of television. But Juno reminds him that there is more dark match warm-up before the show which is used to warm up the audience before the main event. The manager says that time is still short even with that, but Juno replies that he plans to have his match in 3 minutes only, and their battle will begin during the interview with Russell and it will smoothly flow into the ring afterward. The manager says that then there will be even more time available, and in the second part they will nominate the most famous fighters, so then the audience will wait for the next show with interest and anticipation. Harley notes that thanks to this guy's ideas the show will sparkle with new colors and excitement, and he tells everyone to get to work on making it happen. When Juno leaves Harley's office, a man approaches him and asks how the conversation goes with the boss. Juno replies that he is fine and the man leads him to the costume room to discuss outfits. He says that he sees Juno's first costume and really likes it a lot. He takes out jeans and a Wyatt t-shirt and advises him to cut the jeans so that the knee strike will look more impressive on camera, although something dark would suit Juno's color better since he plays a bad guy character. At this time, girls approach Juno who want to get an autograph from the hero who defeats Hart himself in the ring. Juno is confused because he has never given an autograph before either in his past life or in this life he is living now. The man asks him what pseudonym Juno has chosen for himself to use. Juno takes the notebook from the girl to write in it. Afterward, the man looks at the autograph incredulously because it is written there in large letters as Sin. Juno thinks that if everyone mocks his abilities and skin color in the past, let them know that he is back and ready to take revenge on all of them, because he is the new Sin in the wrestling world. The man thinks about it and draws on a black t-shirt how he sees Juno's entry rhythm and character design. Juno really enjoys designing his costume because preparing for the show is difficult but very interesting at the same time. In the corridor, Juno is met by a huge man who asks Juno if he is Sin. Juno nods silently looking up at the tall fighter. The fighter tells Juno to follow him because sports have their own subordination and hierarchy. Although Juno is an experienced wrestler in his past life, he returns in 2002 and is now a newbie in this timeline, and at that time the elders oppressed the younger ones which Juno remembers very well, something like an army. He enters the room and is immediately showered with ridicule from the veterans. They say he is dressed like a refugee and the face is strange looking. The bald man is laughing at him. The others say that the newcomer is scared like a little princess. They call Juno into the ring to test him. He knows each of them from his past life memories. In the ring, the bearded man suggests starting with chain wrestling, a technique for combining attacking movements and counterattacks, and chain wrestling is the foundation of wrestling skills. But Juno is in no hurry to attack first. The bearded man asks why the guy is not attacking, and Juno replies that he is not a fool to attack an opponent who is twice his size. Then the bearded man rushes to the attack with a roar and he begins to grab Juno's head. Juno realizes that he is in a steel vise and is about to die from the pressure. To Juno's surprise, he survives the grab and the bearded man says that they will now bounce off the rope together. Juno crashes into the ropes and bounces off them with momentum. His opponent stands bent over after the throw and Juno runs at him. He rests his hands on his opponent's broad back and jumps over it doing a somersault in the air. Meanwhile, the wrestlers talk about Juno after the training session. Sheamus asks where this one comes from in the first place. Husky replies that it is clear he is from China or somewhere. Sheamus yells that that is not what he is talking about at all, because if the guy is an amateur then why is he so good at wrestling? They agree to invite the arrogant newcomer to the gym tomorrow to train more. A huge fighter walks past them, and Husky asks him if he is ready for the show to come up. The other wrestler replies that he is completely confident in himself and his abilities. Baku approaches the door of the hall behind which loud sounds are heard from inside. In the ring, Sheamus does a backdrop on Juno, and he falls into the ring with a deafening roar. A wrestler and the rest of the fighters watch this happen with interest. Professional wrestlers always try to avoid injury and fight comfortably with each other, and even after a strong throw or trick, a fighter should not experience severe pain from it. But Juno wants to teach the fighters a real lesson about wrestling. Baku comes in at that very moment and says that it is time for everyone to go to lunch now. A wrestler tries to object, but Baku's iron hand lies on his shoulders and the coach persistently invites a wrestler to lunch with everyone. When everyone leaves the hall, Baku asks Juno how he feels after all that. Juno answers honestly that it is like being in hell with all the training. Baku meets Juno in the car, and he asks how preparations for the show are going so far. He replies that in the back seat is what the writers come up with for him to use. They are impressed by his stunts and theme song that he will have. Juno does not remember any theme song at all. Baku turns on the tape recorder. Baku says that since Juno's arrival, everyone has been working enthusiastically and is looking forward to the show with excitement, and thanks to his idea there is a high chance that the show will not fail at all. On Saturday night, the percentage of viewers is 0.7, and the 273rd episode of the show will take place today. In Juno's past life, the entire show fails due to very low ratings and viewership, but now Juno is preparing to enter the ring to change that, and Harley yells at Juno to put on a real show for everyone watching. Russell Hart, the heir to a famous wrestling family, is greeted enthusiastically by the audience as he enters. Juno watches Russell being interviewed on the screen backstage. The presenter asks Hart how he is feeling about the upcoming match. Russell says he will do his best to perform well. The presenter asks how he enters the professional ring at such a young age for someone like him. Russell replies that he is following in the footsteps of his father and uncle who wrestled before. At this time, Juno appears in front of the cameras and says that this will not work, and why did they not tell him that there would be an interview, or can only elite sons count on getting one? The host, confused, says that Juno's interview is scheduled next after Russell. Juno approaches the girl threateningly and says that he half thinks that she does not care about him at all. Russell shouts at Juno to stop being a bully to her, and as he stands between the girl and Juno, he demands that Juno apologize to the presenter right now. Juno says what will happen if he does not apologize to her. Russell advises Juno not to test his patience. Juno laughs and says that there is no need to take everything so hostile like this, and he hits Russell between the legs with a low blow. Russell really does not like this sneaky blow at all. Juno is yelling that such vile people who grow up with a golden spoon in their mouths can only talk nonsense into the microphone, and at the same time he beats Russell down. The spectators freeze in horror at what they are witnessing. The leader shouts for them to stop fighting. Parents watching TV at home cover their children's eyes, but they themselves cannot tear themselves away from the screen to stop watching. Russell is lying on the floor, and Juno is standing over him looking down. He looks straight into the camera and tells the whole world that can consider me sin from now on. He continues to say that he does not care about their dreams or requests at all, but all viewers will remember him as a winner, and they just have to watch him rise to the very top of wrestling. There is applause from some people. Everyone tells Juno that the promotion is great and well done. Juno says that he is very worried because it is a live broadcast happening right now, but everything seems to be going well so far. Russell stands up and says that Juno still overdoes the blow on him. He apologizes for the mistake. At this time, an enthusiastic roar from the audience comes from the hall because there is a fight between famous wrestlers happening. They think that they have just finished their first promo and wonder how the audience will react to them going forward. They wonder if they will like the battle between the golden-haired Major and Juno from the streets who knows nothing but freedom. Meanwhile, the fight between the two famous wrestlers ends with a simultaneous knockout and a draw result. Commentators say that this is exactly how someone should fight for the champion belt, with everything. The battle ends early, so Baku says that the exit with Russell will be 5 minutes early now. Standing next to Juno is Sheamus, with whom he is supposed to have his first fight tonight. Juno asks what they will do now with the extra time. Sheamus replies to Juno to follow him quietly, and he warns that if Juno twitches or does anything stupid, he will rip his head off his shoulders. Commentators say that the next fighter is from Ireland, height is 193 centimeters, weight is 120 kilograms, and his name is Sheamus. He receives huge support from the public and fans. Juno thinks his promo also gives him some fame with people. He walks into the ring and thinks that this is a gift to him after so many years of suffering in his past life. Juno does not pay attention to this because he knows that after Russell comes out, the audience's opinion will change completely. At the moment, Sheamus looms over Juno like a rock ready to crush him. The fighters grab each other's hands and try to grab each other's necks in a grappling position. Juno falls into the steel trap of the grip and feels that all his muscles are cramping from the pressure. Sheamus whispers for the guy to give up, but this is not in the script at all. Sheamus throws Juno into the ropes and growls that he gives him exactly 5 minutes to finish. Sheamus slams Juno into the corner hard, and everyone wonders if the guy can get out of this situation. Everyone in the room does not understand what is happening right now. Baku is afraid that Sheamus will go against the script just for the sake of his pride and ego. The referee tries to get Sheamus away from Juno, but Sheamus continues to throw punches at him, and Juno is already sitting in the corner and breathing heavily from exhaustion. Juno understands that if Sheamus now takes all the attention of the audience, then there will be no point in his fight with Russell afterward. He needs to buy time somehow, and he jumps out of the corner and runs around the ring to escape. The referee stands between the fighters to the great indignation of Sheamus, who does not expect such agility from Juno at all. Commentators shout that Juno is a rare coward and decides to hide behind the judge's back for protection. Juno shouts at Sheamus to do everything according to the script like they planned. But Sheamus says he will do it as he wants to do it, and he rushes at Juno again. Then Juno runs out to meet him head-on. Sheamus picks up Juno and throws him to the floor of the ring as hard as he possibly can. He grabs him with the hair roughly. Juno thinks desperately that he cannot give up like this at all. Sheamus says the script is for the newcomer to win and no one will like that result. Juno replies that in wrestling all fighters win regardless of whether they win or lose the match. Sheamus says that they could do it as written in the script, but the audience will not like it at all. Then Juno decides that he will not tolerate this anymore and hits Sheamus in the forehead with his hand hard. Sheamus grabs his head in pain and the commentators shout what a great shot, and Juno now has a chance to turn this around. Juno lands a knee strike on Sheamus's face with force. Sheamus begins to fall over, and Juno thinks what is happening because his opponent cannot properly take his attack at all. Sheamus falls to the floor and Juno is the first to see the danger Sheamus is in right now. Juno runs up and hits Sheamus, knocking him out of the fall onto the ropes, and he puts his foot between Sheamus and the ropes to protect him. What a great shot from Juno to save him. Sheamus is lying on the floor and he raises his head and realizes that he almost dies just now, and then he focuses his gaze and sees Juno's middle finger in front of him. Juno says that they must play by the rules because they have rehearsed all the movements, and now every attack can be fatal to someone. He turns to the auditorium and shouts that he is tired of them who are nothing of themselves but come to watch the match. He shouts that no one can hold a candle to him, and he is now the new luminary of wrestling. He will be the one to take the championship belt and they should start respecting him now. Russell Hart's symbol, a pink heart with the lightning bolt, lights up on the screen above. Afterward, Russell runs towards Juno like a complete maniac and hits him straight down towards the ground with force, and this is a critical and important moment for Russell Hart's career. At backstage, Baku thinks to himself that Russell is returning the favor from the interview situation, and it isn't just the audience members, but the staff members are also going wild and excited about the match happening. Russell and Juno keep on hitting each other repeatedly during their first TV show debut performance, but Juno then hits Russell's injured area specifically, which surprises the audience watching. Juno then kicks Russell hard, which pushes him outside of the rope and onto the floor. Russell continues to counterattack with his own moves, and the audience members are freely cheering and booing for each side depending on their favorites. Russell and Juno continue fighting with each other intensely and head towards the exit door, but the audience doesn't care about the location change at all as they are totally focused on the exciting fight. On the other hand, the director asks Baku where he is going right now, so Baku replies back that he was a bit worried about how Sheamus was doing after the event. The director quickly figures out and realizes that he is just worried about Juno and Russell instead, so he tells him to go the other way and meet him there. He also adds that he shouldn't spoil them too much with attention and asks if Juno is his son or something because he is taking care of him way too much lately. Later on, Baku asks Russell and Juno what they would have done if the audience saw them fighting for real like that. Baku then tells them both to go rest inside the locker room and says that Russell had a perfect break in performance, and Juno looked like he was struggling a bit at the beginning of the match. Just then, Sheamus arrives and Juno asks him if he is alright because he might have kicked him too hard, but Baku gets furious at him. Juno explains that it was all part of the story as Sheamus fell over by mistake because he kicked him too hard. After that, Baku leaves the room, telling that he has a meeting to catch up and they should just be careful next time. Sheamus then asks Juno why he covered up for him like that, but Juno says back that they are now even with him kicking him with this move. The show ended perfectly and successfully, and the theme was the 16th round of the GCW Championship Tournament, and all 8 matches with different methods ending with a draw became a hot topic of discussion. But the most talked about thing was the outlaw that came looking for GCW and his opponent, the descendant of an elite family, and their developing story. At the GCW meeting room, Baku tells the director excitedly that this week's rating is 1% overall, and local newspaper, magazines, and the internet, all the attention was focused on them and their performance. The director tells Baku to encourage the players and boost their morale, and they should have a barbecue party during the weekend to celebrate. Meanwhile, Juno and John Cena are having their flexibility training, but Sean is struggling at it as usual. Just then, Sheamus knocks on their door, and when Juno opens it, he gets shocked to see him. Sheamus says that they are training the day after the match, which is quite consistent, but he wants to borrow some of his time. Later on, Baku and the others also arrive to ask about Juno and his whereabouts, but John Cena tells them that Sheamus came to get Juno a while back already. On the other hand, Juno wonders to himself what kind of trouble Sheamus is going to cause now with him. Sheamus thanks him sincerely for saving his life back there, but Juno gets surprised by this gratitude, so Sheamus explains that the way he got the audience to shout and cheer was really good too, and there is no pro wrestler who wouldn't acknowledge that skill after seeing it performed. Sheamus then says to him that from now on, he can tell him if he has any issues or problems and he will be sure to help him with them. Just then, Baku shows up suddenly and gets furious at Sheamus and tells him to stop messing around with Juno right now. Baku tells Juno that they need to talk about his contract details, and they have got lots of other things to discuss as well today. Later on, the screenplay leader named Paki introduces himself properly to Juno, saying that they are going to work together from now on. Paki asks Juno if he had a fresh new idea like last time during the match, but Juno wonders to himself if he is trying to ask for screenplay suggestions from an athlete like him. He asks himself why he would do this, as if he ends up leaving that creative responsibility to him, he will be the one in trouble instead of Paki. It turns out, the screenplay is the crux of pro wrestling that determines a wrestler's entire life and career path. So, if there is a wrestler involved in making the script and storylines, the other wrestler's relationship with them could turn sour and become problematic. Baku then adds that Paki just wants to hear a suggestion from him, even though Baku doesn't feel comfortable with this situation as well, but it is undeniable that the last show was an amazing one that worked well. Juno then tells his suggestion to both of them clearly and says that it would be better for wrestler Ashley to win this championship tournament. However, Paki asks if the people won't be annoyed if a heel becomes champion again, but Juno says that he can make a turn face happen, which means it's a situation where the heel becomes a babyface. Later on, Paki wonders to himself what if he makes Ashley persistently fight for the champion title rather than making him a guy who just wants to win easily. He then plans carefully that he will write out a surprise attack scene to make it a turn face moment, and the main point is to get rid of any type of foul play or cheating. From that specific day forward, everyone starts working hard and training seriously, but Juno notices a guy joking around in the gym area, which makes him laugh quietly. He thinks to himself that the guy has a simple, poseless appearance and a bulky body that doesn't seem to last long for a pro wrestler career, and he is a person who didn't seem to stand a chance at all, but he is showing up with an unprecedented gimmick that no one expected to see. Juno then approaches Sheamus nearby and asks him if he could ask Husky to help him with exercises and training, but it turns out, Husky overhears his own name being mentioned and asks Juno directly if he thinks he is that easy to convince. Husky then asks Juno why he is looking for him specifically, so Juno tells him that he concluded that he could learn something valuable by watching him train. Husky then shows the expression that he accepts his offer willingly, which surprises Juno as he never thought he would be more accepting and agreeable. Husky then takes Juno to the ring immediately, and Juno thinks to himself that people are bound to get better at anything if they continue to do it consistently, but Husky never improved until he retired from wrestling. Later that same day, Juno and Husky visit a bar together where Husky impresses all the girls there with his weird humor, but Juno thinks to himself that he comes to the pub after training sessions, which shows that he didn't put in any serious effort. Husky isn't the only one like that, as all of the customers here are GCW seniors and veterans. He thinks that out of them all, the only people who went up to the main WWF are Husky and him. Juno then asks Husky how long he have been at the GCW, so he says that it's been around 5 years. Juno then says that it's about time he got up to the main, but Husky replies that he is just sick of wrestling in general. Husky then shows him a newspaper article that there has been traces of a Sasquatch in the Blue Ridge Mountains, so he was planning on going on a vacation there soon. Hearing that, Juno realizes that Husky was able to gain popularity quickly in the main with that kind of gimmick thanks to that odd hobby of his, but all that happened after he went up to the main. Juno then casually asks him how he came to do wrestling as a career, so Husky says and explains that it is because his family has been wrestling for 3 generations now. Juno promises to himself silently that he will make Husky get a new gimmick in this tournament no matter what happens. The next day, Juno beats Sheamus in the match and advances to the round of 16 successfully, and it turns out, the audience members are 2 times more compared to last time's show. After the match, Juno thanks Sheamus sincerely because he was a great help during this match and made it exciting. Juno then realizes to himself that the way this time period flows is different from when he was a producer in his past life, and now, he needs to find that subtle difference between which part of a player that the audience boos and cheers for specifically. Later on, Juno approaches Husky and asks him if he can make an interesting gimmick together, but Husky tries to tell him that he doesn't like wrestling that much. However, Juno tells him that he does like wrestling, and just because it is better than pizza delivery jobs, he would have stayed here for 5 years working. Hearing that, Husky tells him that they should make an interesting gimmick then and give it a try. After that, Baku tells Juno that no matter how good the gimmick is, but if he suddenly changes it without warning, the audience won't be able to understand it properly. Baku then tells him that they can do that gimmick change starting from the next match instead and explains that the director saw it first in a meeting and approved it officially. Later on, the director tells everyone that the quarterfinals are going to be separated into 2 matches, with the first match and lastly, the broadcast's main event is Juno and Russell's ring segment for the audience to watch. Juno then gives the announcement in the ring with his boring jokes and commentary style. He even makes fun of Russell directly, saying he thinks he is from a royal family when all he did was live off of his mom in her house growing up. Just then, Russell enters the ring and says back that this is all Juno could do as a performer, as he is only popular because of his nasty words and insults. Both of them then try to fight each other physically, but Husky interrupts and say that no matter who wins between them, he will end up smashing them into pieces in the semifinals match. However, the audience starts booing at Husky, asking who is this fatty. Husky then says that he doesn't know where the hell they all are from, but this is the GCW and it's not a place where they can mess around like this. Earlier, the director told everyone that in the middle of Russell and Juno's segment, Husky will break in and ruin the mood. Moreover, while Russell leaves, Juno need to attack him, and it's not just to showcase the brutality of Juno's character, but they are also giving Husky a chance to switch up his gimmick. Back in present, the audience starts cheering for Russell and Juno, saying they both should beat up Husky. Juno then tells Russell that he is going to back off as Husky made him lose his energy and asks him if they can go on with the quarterfinals next week. After that, Russell and Juno exit the ring. That surprises the audience. However, Juno suddenly runs back to the ring and gives Husky a surprise attack without any warning. It turns out, there is blood coming out from Husky's head after the attack, so the umpire stops Juno immediately and then, he leaves the ring area. Later on, the director asks Juno what made him do that dangerous move, so Juno says that he did it purposely because the audience was way too violent and he thought it would be necessary to act even more brutal to get the intended reaction from the audience members. Hearing that, the director gets furious and asks Juno who told him to make it so extreme and bloody like that. Juno also realizes that going against the script really is wrong, as Husky bled a lot from the attack. Husky then enters the room after the director leaves and thanks Juno because of him he had a cool scene and he never expected that him getting hurt could be a good thing for once. A week later at the GCW Thunder Ring, Russell uses his sharpshooter move on Juno, but he tries his best to stretch out his hand and instead of taping it out, he grabs Russell's leg and hits him with a new kick on the face. In the end, Juno manages to win the match, but he thinks that he is not the main star for today even though it was a great match. The next day, all the wrestlers hear some news on the radio about Baku and also Juno, who became rivals with a member of the famous Hart family. Juno thinks that in his previous life, he wasn't even mentioned let alone praised, and right now, he is the center of attention in the GCW. The entire wrestling newsletter, a radio show hosted by people who have published columns or news stories about professional wrestling. When the broadcast aired, the response was overwhelming. The viewer count easily went over 1,000. The broadcaster, who expected it to blow up, replayed the show multiple times. After that, different media showed their interest as Baku tried to teach cooler and safer methods in order to carry out a match with even a little less risk. The next week, Juno gets back on the ring and starts making fun of others like usual. He also announced that he will totally obliterate Broken Wyatt next week. Just then, Husky enters the ring and starts beating up Juno and says that next week, he will make sure Juno will be the one to lose. After the match, everyone tells Juno that he did a good job as they are getting insane reactions, but then, Husky approaches Juno, asking why he looks stunned. Husky looks around and realizes that his father is actually in the room. Husky's father was a stern man who forced his ideals on him harshly and laughed at his dreams and aspirations. When Husky was young, his father burned all his books and other items about cryptids and mysterious creatures, and from that point on, Husky began to hate his father deeply, but he became a wrestler because he couldn't stand his father's constant pestering and pressure. Baku then tells Juno that he could see that Husky wasn't able to properly work as a wrestler because of the ongoing feud with his father, but Juno hopes that this issue will be resolved well somehow. Juno thinks to himself that in the end, Husky is a son who wanted to be acknowledged by his father badly, and if only they had a chance to admit their wrongs and reconcile with each other peacefully. Juno then asks Baku why he chose Husky to train, but Baku says simply that it is because he saw his natural talent clearly. Juno then realizes that Husky may have pretended to not care about the feud with his father till now, but he can't help but like his shining talent and potential. 2 weeks later, Juno lost to Husky in the semifinals as planned by the script, and Husky became the champion for successfully creating a new gimmick and character. After that, the players who had gained momentum showed their individuality and unique styles, and the overall quality of the show began to increase significantly and improve. The commentators talk about how good Juno is despite him losing the match recently, but then, they also talk about Russell's performance and skills too. The next day, Juno talks about Greg Hart in the ring and says that he is an expert at punishment moves, a hero, and a master of 7 different skills. He is an extraordinary technician with a record of 7 World Championship wins under his belt, and even though he didn't play a huge part in the wrestling of his generation overall, people still consider him the leader of this wrestling generation today. Juno then says boldly that Greg should retire quickly and just go watch an ice hockey game with his nephew instead of wrestling anymore. Juno keeps on insulting Russell repeatedly, which makes the audience hate him even more and boo louder, but then, Russell enters the ring angrily, saying he doesn't mind him insulting him personally. He further tells Juno directly that he won't stand him insulting a hero who is acknowledged by their entire generation of wrestlers. Juno then tells him that it won't be the same as last time they fought, but Juno asks him what if he doesn't want to fight with him anymore today at all. However, Russell says back that he will crush that knee of his completely and destroy it, and Juno finds it amazing and perfect, so the match between Russell and he became a success once more with the audience members. Now, everyone watching has the same reaction and wonders curiously if Russell will really break Juno's knee during the match. Curiosity as well as expectations led to people purchasing tickets in large numbers, and so, the tickets for GCW Thunder were sold out daily, and due to increased sales, GCW decided on a new policy for the future. The next day, Baku shows Juno the new t-shirt merchandise and tells him that from the sales, his profit is going to be around half of 1%, which means he gets approximately 6 cents for every single shirt that gets sold. Baku then asks him if he feels unhappy about this deal and questions if he wants to take care of his own promotional work instead, which makes Juno react with a lot of surprise. Baku then explains to him that he needs to actually wear and try out the t-shirt himself before their next match that is coming up the following week. Later on, Juno promotes the t-shirt merchandise during a media interview by explaining how this specific t-shirt represents and shows exactly what Russell sees and thinks about whenever he looks at him. After the interview finishes, Russell comes up to Juno and tells him that it is really an incredible and amazing promotional job, especially because he already has his own personal t-shirts coming out and being available for people to buy, but Juno responds to him by saying that they need to fight and beat each other in their matches until there are no more shirts left in the stock and inventory. After that moment, the show officially starts, and because the promo gets a very good response, the audience reacts with strong excitement even though the match itself is only average. On top of that, the loud and active crowd makes the entire show feel much more fun and enjoyable to watch. Soon, Juno and Russell both enter the ring, and Juno notices that many people in the crowd have bought the t-shirts during that time. As he usually does, Juno begins to make fun of Russell by teasing him and saying that the t-shirt is something he made especially for him. Right after this moment, the match officially begins as Russell suddenly charges straight toward Juno, quickly grabs him, and then aggressively rips the t-shirt apart in a rough and forceful move. Juno becomes extremely angry because of this and immediately tries to punch Russell, but Russell reacts fast and easily dodges the attack without getting hit. Russell then strikes Juno in return, and the hit is strong enough to knock Juno down onto the ground, making it clear that Juno cannot stand up properly because of the sudden attack. Russell slowly walks closer to Juno and then delivers a hard strike directly to his knee, making the damage even worse. After that, Russell grabs Juno from above and forcefully slams him onto the ground by using a Dominator move. At this stage, everyone watching the match clearly understands that Russell is fully focusing his attacks on Juno's knees and is doing it on purpose to weaken him. After that, Russell uses a submission move by placing Juno into a tight chin lock, holding him down and staying in full control of the situation. The audience is unable to stay calm while watching this intense and long-awaited moment, and because of the excitement they have been building up for so long, they begin cheering loudly. Juno then manages to break free by poking Russell in the eye, creating a small opening for himself, but just as he tries to launch a counterattack, he loses his balance due to the constant damage done to his knees earlier. At that moment, Russell strikes again by kicking him once more and immediately follows up by using his finishing move, the sharpshooter. In the end, Juno taps the ground to give up, which officially makes Russell the winner of the match. The following day, it is time for the second match between Russell and Juno, and as soon as the bell rings, Russell immediately begins tearing apart Juno's t-shirt. Russell becomes so concentrated on attacking and hitting Juno's knee repeatedly that he actually ends up breaking his knee for real, which gets everyone in the audience really excited. To finish the match, Russell performs his signature finishing move called the sharpshooter, which puts so much pressure on Juno that it causes him to tap out from the match. Russell shows that he is just as skilled and experienced as his uncle was, but the fact that he is able to get the crowd this hyped up and energized is just truly amazing. Later on, Juno storms into and barges through the director's room and tells him directly that he wants to have a rematch against Russell. However, the director responds by saying that he has already managed to win against Russell once before, so he questions why he would want to fight him again in another match. Juno gets furious and says that the director can wear couple clothing with Russell and dance in front of the audience if he want, but then the second match between Russell and Juno is announced. However, the second round finishes with both of them getting a tie, but the really important thing is actually the pay-per-view event, because that is where Russell and Juno are going to have their final match against each other. About a week earlier, the crowd begins cheering loudly for Russell, and it is completely Juno's fault because he made a comment saying that Russell's costume looked like something an amateur would wear. Juno starts thinking to himself that if this situation keeps continuing like this, then the image and reputation that they spent such a long time building and creating for Russell might completely fall apart and get ruined. Baku then turns to the director and asks him if he has any kind of plan to fix this problem, but the director simply responds by saying that they should just play a commercial break instead, so Juno steps in and interrupts by saying that he actually has a plan of his own. Juno then goes over to the sound team leader and tells him to turn on and play music whenever Russell begins talking again. Afterward, Juno also enters into the ring, saying that Russell appears so sad and downcast because everyone else is having such a good time and enjoying themselves. The audience then begins cheering loudly for Juno, which is really quite surprising and unexpected since they never actually liked him or supported him in the first place. Russell tells him that putting on those clothes so quickly and dancing around is not something that some amateur does, and he explains that the outfit he is currently wearing is actually a battle costume that is meant for fighting and competing. Russell then tells Juno directly that if he is really so worried and concerned about using his knees during their matches, he should at least put on and wear his knee pads for protection, but if he chooses not to wear them, then he can come up here into the ring and prove to everyone that he is not a coward or someone who is scared. Hearing that, Juno becomes furious, so he quickly turns around and heads back to the backstage area where crew members start cheering for Juno to do such a good job with his performance. Later on, Baku tells Russell directly that it is not a good idea at all for him to make a complete fool out of his character like that, and everyone who is present in the room believes and thinks that it is all thanks to Juno going out there and covering for them. Juno knows something for sure and certain, which is that the cheers that Russell has been receiving and getting up until this point was actually because the audience wanted to see defiance and resistance against him since he plays a villain character. He thinks to himself that Russell was not really acknowledged or recognized as a hero in his own right, and if that is actually the case and true, then the thing that Russell really needs to worry and be concerned about is not his good guy image and reputation. Baku then says that as they continue moving forward, they really should tone down how much they are tearing down each other's image with their actions, and they will make sure to stick to following the script. Juno then tells Baku that he actually has a favor that he wants to ask him, and that favor is that he wants to do hard-hitting and real physical contact in their next week's match. Soon the matches keep continuing, and a good professional wrestler never puts in their complete full effort in every single situation they are in, and since it is a job where they constantly throw their body around and get hit by their opponents, when things go too far overboard, the end result is never anything good or positive. During the actual match, Juno and Russell are really hitting each other extremely hard with full force, which really surprises and shocks the audience watching them. Russell pushes Juno with great strength into the pole, which ends up causing Juno to start bleeding from the impact of hitting it. Russell then runs directly and straight towards Juno with the intention to hit him hard, but Juno quickly and swiftly dodges out of his way and uses his German suplex wrestling move to slam Russell down hard onto the ground. Juno does not give up that easily at all, as he quickly charges forward towards Russell with speed and kicks him directly on his face with force. Both of them are now bleeding really badly from their injuries, which get the audience extremely excited and pumped up. They start cheering loudly for both of them with enthusiasm. The match keeps continuing with both of them charging directly towards each other with full energy, but Juno ends up getting easily taken down and defeated by Russell's strength. He then grabs onto Juno's legs firmly and tries to perform his signature sharpshooter finishing move on him. It is now the last-minute situation of the entire match, which means there is a whole lot of importance in having a submission move happen, and everyone watching starts wondering if Juno will somehow manage to escape this dangerous move. The referee then starts counting, but Juno suddenly grabs him with his hands and throws him directly towards Russell with all his strength. Due to all of Juno's rule-breaking fouls during the match finally ends and the audience immediately starts booing. After the fight, Juno and Russell both go together to the nurse's office to get proper treatment, but the nurse asks Juno how many times he has been cut during matches. Juno responds by saying that if he ever decides to quit wrestling completely, he will go back to his hometown and start working in butchery as a job. Russell, who is also getting his wounds treated, tells Juno that he should eat something soon because if his stomach ends up making growling noises into the microphone later on, it is definitely going to cause problems for everyone. Russell then says to him that it really looks like he did a very good job with his performance today, but Juno responds by saying that it should be completely obvious by looking at the reaction of the crowd. Baku then walks into the room and tells both of them to hurry up as quickly as possible because they really need to end the match soon. Sometime later, Juno and Russell once again make their way back to the ring where Russell immediately starts making fun of Juno and mocking him on the microphone like he usually does. Juno then notices and observes that the audience is now completely in control of Russell's movements and actions, as they even stopped and paused at his move, which clearly shows and proves that his acting skills and performance have really improved a lot. The atmosphere and feeling between Russell and Juno is now completely different from how it was before, as during all the continued fights they had together, they slowly began to acknowledge each other as worthy opponents. However, Juno has committed and done a lot of rule-breaking fouls during their matches, which is something that actually happens quite often in the professional wrestling world. After the fight, the pay-per-view part was added in properly at the end like skill training, physical training, promo filming and bunch of other things. A few weeks later, Juno and Russell arrive at the Atlanta Stadium, which is a familiar place for Juno. He stayed in GCW for a really long while during his past life, and he also had some pay-per-view matches to compete in, although all of them were just side roles. However, the situation is completely different now because with the opportunity and chance that he never had in his previous life, he is now playing a main role and starring position. Russell and Juno then walk into and enter the building, which is actually extremely huge and massive in size, but Juno says that since it is a WWF main show and event, this much size and scale should definitely be expected and normal. Juno tries to encourage Russell by saying to him that he is truly the best wrestler in the entire world, but Russell asks him if it is really okay and fine to go with the ending that they planned together. Juno tells him that he should not worry about it at all because it will be an ending that the people really want to see. According to Juno, this pay-per-view match will have a completely different ending compared to the two previous matches they already had. Bobby tries to turn the truck over with all his strength, and he succeeds as all his muscles are tense and working hard. Bobby Ashley is confident that he is going to become a champion soon. Husky approaches him in his new stage image that he is working on. All of this is being broadcast on the screen, and people cannot believe that Bobby really does it. The heir to a great family is now making his mark. Russell appears on the screen with angel wings on his back, and Juno is surrounded by hellfire flames all around him. Harley enters the hall and says that he once hears from people that wrestlers are cowards who play dirty by backstabbing their opponents. They are beasts who use their powers to take down their opponents when their tricks stop working. He continues that of course he does the same thing as many others, but it is still much better here because a person appears who shows how you can act freely and improve the show's programs. He continues that when the newcomers enter the ring, let them not forget these moments when they influence the history of wrestling with their talent. The commentator says greetings to all the fans of professional wrestling as the Atlanta Sports Stadium is here today, and people from all over America come here to see today's GCW match. Reporters ask people which fighters they come to support, but the girl says that she supports Russell. All the main fighters are ready to sign autographs for their fans. Husky tells Juno that he should not stick to his stage persona when signing autographs because there are going to be children here. The hall worker shouts to let the spectators in. To Juno's surprise, there is quite a long queue lined up to see him. A guy approaches him and says he has a website about wrestling. He says that people who only watch Japanese wrestling only start watching WWF because of Juno. He is now a superstar who can revive American wrestling. After that, even more people come for autographs. One of the spectators tells him that he is never going to be able to beat Russell Hart. Juno replies that this is still going to have to be looked at. The last to approach Juno is a family with a child, and they are Koreans. Juno asks the boy his name, and he answers that it is Ned Kim. Juno says that he is also Kim, his name is Kim Juno, and he gives the boy an autograph in Korean, and then they take a group photo with the boy and his family. The GCW match starts at Atlanta Stadium with coverage conducted by famous commentators Rick Ross and Malibu King. Everyone is looking forward to the start of the match happening tonight. There are 9,842 spectators in the hall, and such numbers of spectators do not happen even at the main shows normally. Commentators say they have never felt such an atmosphere before in their careers. They are confident that the wrestlers are going to put on an amazing show for everyone. They offer to look at pairs of opponents on the screen display. Suddenly the light goes out and there are problems with the screen going green. Husky then gives an amazing entry, and he says everyone is waiting now for the show to begin. He enters the arena with a lantern and continues to say that everyone wants the championship belt, which is his for now. But he is not like everyone else who is just talking about it. He only shows what is worthwhile. And he turns to Bobby, inviting him to come and pick up the champion belt if he does not chicken out. The show has begun and a beast with bronze skin comes out. Bobby, weighing 130 kilograms, is like a hero from a legend in the ring. The one who wants to win and the one who wants to defend his title, This is a fight between two giants for the championship title. Wyatt hits the ropes exhausted, and Bobby puts Wyatt's head in a headlock. He lifts him up into a delayed vertical suplex where the attacking fighter holds the opponent in an inverted position at the top of the arc for several seconds and falls back, sending the opponent to the floor hard. A devastated Wyatt loses, and it looks like his last match is just luck. Bobby does not let Wyatt come to his senses and picks him up again. It looks like he is about to throw it over his shoulder now. It looks like the match is nearing its end soon. Wyatt is completely exhausted from the beatdown. Suddenly some strange sounds are heard in the hall and the lights go out again. When the lights come on, two fighters wearing ram masks appear in the arena. Wyatt attacks the confused Bobby, and Bobby barely manages to create a block. Masked fighters attack Bobby, and a devastated Wyatt and two strangers attack Bobby together. Commentators are screaming that this is against the rules and why go that far with this. Juno watches what is happening with interest from backstage. A beaten Bobby sits in the corner and Wyatt has formed his team now. The audience feels furious and shocked, and because of the chaos caused earlier, the first match ends up being completely ruined and loses its meaning. After that, the next 3 matches take place without any problems and everything goes smoothly. Soon, it becomes time for the main event that everyone in the crowd has been waiting for throughout the whole night. Juno enters the ring while the audience cheers loudly and roars his name with excitement. Standing on the opposite side is Russell Hart, whose face clearly shows strong confidence that he will win the match. Juno thinks about how he has worked hard for weeks to make the show exciting and enjoyable for the audience that has been waiting so eagerly. At this point, there is no longer any need for words between the two of them. Both opponents simply stare at each other across the ring with threatening looks, showing that the real battle is about to begin. Juno immediately grabs Russell's arm and applies a submission hold on him tightly. He continues to hold his opponent's hand, lifts him up, and gives him acceleration with a sharp right blow to the jaw hard. Russell is thrown far away from Juno across the ring. He doubles over in pain from the impact. Juno does not give his opponent time to recover and attacks again with a kick to the head. Russell loses his bearings for a second and Juno continues his attack. He grabs Russell and throws him into the ring with all his might. As Russell lies down on the mat, Juno whispers that he is following the plan well. He climbs the ropes to make a dive onto Russell, who is trying to get to his feet. While Juno is still in the air, Russell suddenly attacks back. He catches Juno flying by the neck and pulls him down so that Juno slams his head into the floor with all his might. Now Juno lays motionless and Russell stands over him. Juno starts to get up, but Russell does not give him that chance and hits him with an elbow to the back of the head. He grabs Juno's leg and begins to try to carry out a submission move. Juno manages to free his leg and escape the hold. There is a fierce battle going on and the referee monitors the condition of both fighters. Slowly the referee tells Juno that he is told that Juno should prepare for a big blow. The judge says that Juno should get ready and he will tell Russell about the plan. Russell understands everything and is ready to act. The fighters again clasp hands in the center of the ring. Juno forcefully pushes Russell away from him. He goes for a knee strike on Russell, but Russell is able to slip behind Juno and grabs him by the ankle while jumping. Juno falls to the floor of the ring with all his might. The walls of the stadium shake from such a blow. Russell instantly takes control of Juno's leg and begins his final move. Juno tries to stop his opponent with his hand, but Russell blocks his hand. Then the lights go out again and Juno tells Russell that he can let him go. The stadium freezes in the darkness. Cena calls out to Cena and says that everything is ready. The same masked men run into the ring, and when the lights come back on, the commentator cannot find the right words to describe what is happening in the ring. It seems that Team Wyatt, who interrupts the first match, reappears in the ring and begins beating both Juno and Russell. The judge in a rage grabs the masked attacker by the shoulder and shouts that this cannot be done. He grabs the bully and leads him out of the ring, but defeated Wyatt jumps into the ring and knocks out the referee. His comrades continue to beat Russell and Juno, who lay motionless. With a strong blow, one of the attackers throws Juno over the ring ropes. Juno stands up and looks at the two bullies who are standing in the ring. Juno coughs and walks towards the exit. The spectators shouted for him to return immediately. He hears someone in the hall shout loudly that Juno should help Russell, who is alone with the bullies. Juno stops walking. This is the ending they accept, where Wyatt suddenly appears as the villain and a change of roles. A scenario where two enemies recognize each other and fight against a larger enemy. The beginning is when Juno saves Russell from defeat at first. Juno needs to look confused. Boy Kim shouts to the whole room that Russell should not be left in danger. Juno approaches the boy's father and asks if he would mind if Juno borrowed his chair. The man immediately agrees and Juno takes the chair and tells the boy to never do what Juno is going to do now. While Juno runs away from the ring, Russell takes the blows on himself alone. No one can stop the three guys from attacking. One of the strangers again delivers a strong blow to Russell's head. Wyatt runs up to the prone Russell and begins kicking him. He pushes Russell into the corner of the ring and kicks him in the chest with all his might. Someone from behind calls out to the masked man and taps him on the shoulder. The bully turns around and gets hit hard with a chair by Juno. The man bends over and grabs his head from the blow. The next blow knocks him to the floor hard. The second masked bully rushes at Juno, but he meets him with a chair to the stomach. Having dealt with the two hooligans, Juno goes to Wyatt, who tries to escape. He jumps the ropes and ends up outside the ring. Juno hands Russell a chair. The hall roars joyfully. They stand side by side and look at Wyatt, who realizes that his business is bad and grabs his head, but the guys look at him and realize that everything works out. Reporters are discussing the show and saying that wrestling has become very interesting. Wyatt becomes the villain and finally shapes his role, and Juno and Russell become a team after the battle. It looks like the two of them will form their own team. A common practice to boost the popularity of newcomers. Perhaps in tomorrow's show Juno and Russell will team up. Baku is very pleased with this report, and Juno says that now they will do the complete opposite. Next day of the weekly GCW broadcast, today's report is about the physical strength of the wrestlers on the show. Wyatt says everyone should take his side. They will get rid of everyone who stands in his way, and he will become the king of the ring. His team takes off their masks. Bobby comes into the ring and shouts that they steal his championship belt. Wyatt mockingly says that he is ready to listen to the poor boy. Bobby yells that Wyatt does what he hates most. He takes someone else's property, and this is wrong. Bobby beats anyone he does not like, but he does it honestly, so he pretends to be innocently offended. The spectators look at the ring with interest. Wyatt raises his belt in motion for Bobby to rise and begin the battle. Bobby says he is not alone now. There are two other guys who really want to fight Wyatt. He calls Juno and Russell to come out. No one comes out and Wyatt laughs at this time. Juno and Russell roll into the arena and fight with each other. Russell takes Juno to the floor and starts punching him. Bobby tries to attract the guy's attention to him in the ring. Wyatt is dying of laughter, and Bobby does not understand how this can be. He shouts at the guys who are ready to tear each other apart what they are doing. Bobby pulls the fighting guys apart. Juno threatens Russell that he will kill him. Bobby shouts that the guys promise him that they would beat Wyatt together. Juno is yelling that he does not need anyone to beat Wyatt, and they leave the stage. The match is interrupted, and the scandal continues behind the scenes as Russell yells what Juno says about not wanting to deal with someone as low level as Russell. After the broadcast ends, the guys praise Bobby's acting skills. He has such a confused face that everyone believes him. Harley comes into the room and says that today the organization arranges a match with the teams. Russell and Juno are against it, but Harley says that is what audiences want. Commentators say that the date for the match between Juno, Russell, Bobby and Wyatt will be announced later, but now it will be a battle between Wyatt's team and the Kings of Lucha, a Mexican style of professional wrestling. The Lucha Kings walk into the arena and promise Team Wyatt that they will be gentle in the ring. The Lucha Kings, even with 10 years of experience, are not in the top, but Andrade and Kalisto are very talented wrestlers. Juno runs up to Cena and Eddie, who are nervous before the performance. He says that there is no need to worry, just follow the example of your opponents and play along. He wishes them good luck in their debut fight, and then the match begins. The Lucha Kings come to GCW to train the younger generation. Eddie grapples with Andrade. Andrade is thrown back by a powerful force. He tries to hold on, but his shoulders touch the floor. The referee starts counting, but Andrade arches and lifts his shoulders. He commands Eddie to relax a little, and Eddie lifts him onto his shoulders, and Andrade sits on Eddie's shoulders and says he will give the signal. Eddie's welcome powerbomb, in which a fighter lifts an opponent onto his shoulder and throws him forcefully to the floor. Eddie throws Andrade into the ring, but Kalisto rushes to his friend's rescue, and Cena comes to Eddie and Kalisto charges at Cena, but he pulls him off of him and climbs into the ring. He thinks Cena will be pinned down a lot, but the guy holds up well. Cena is ready to counter Kalisto's attack and takes him down with his arm. Following the script, the Lucha Kings are crushed by the double team shock slam. So, Eddie and Cena manage their debut match with the support of their teachers. The first match ends in victory for the Wyatt team. The second match features Russell and Juno, and their rivals are the Street Times. Their role is the same as the Lucha Kings. They are trying to help the new generation of wrestlers in the spotlight, of course Juno. The result of this match is supposed to be a complete victory for Juno and Russell. However, as the match progresses, their anger gets the better than them. Russell reproaches Juno for ignoring him. Juno says it is clear why they quarrel constantly. Two people who hate each other against a common enemy, and the outcome of this meeting is too obvious. Later, Baku calls Russell and Juno over, saying they are planning to do survey research. Russell tells Baku that Bobby asked Harley to help them work on their teamwork and will make them do something. Juno then asks Baku if he is planning to hold an audience poll based on the survey results, and Baku replies that this is exactly what he is thinking, since survey research will decide what that something should be. However, Juno believes that in the future, a script like this will definitely receive a strong and positive reaction from the audience, so he asks Baku if he wants to try something like a peer relationship improvement program instead. Juno then goes on to explain several ideas that do not seem very useful, all of which he believes could help increase audience response and interest. Even so, Baku responds by saying that the peer relationship improvement program is the safest and most reliable option for now. At that moment, Russell asks Baku why he is already talking as if the votes have been decided, when he previously said that the final decision would be made by the audience votes. Baku says that they are going to manipulate it. That surprises Russell, so he tells Juno that it looks like a scam, but Juno knows that as long as the result is good, it's all fine. After that, they decided to film the promo a couple weeks ahead of time by only inviting trustworthy people. Russell is still quite unsure and asks Juno if there is really a need for this now, as they should wait for the audience's votes and then decide based on the results. Juno says that this is much needed so that they can get at least some rest. People like Juno and Russell who work in different regions like them get more out of vacations, like meeting people they haven't seen in a while. Later that day, Juno goes out to eat at a restaurant where the worker tells Juno that he is a big fan of GCW because of Juno and Russell. Juno then asks the guy who is his favorite, so he tells him that he really likes Juno, who always shows them a great show. Later on, Juno finishes the recording, and because of that, he is given a 2-week vacation to rest. During this break, Juno decides to return to his hometown to meet his parents after a long time. However, things do not go the way he plans at all, because his father beats him badly after seeing him and thinks that Juno looks too skinny and unhealthy. In the past, Juno left home as soon as he became an adult because he wanted to prove that his own path in life was the right one to choose. After going against his parents' wishes, he ran away from home and did not contact them at all, but when he thinks back on it now, he realizes that living like that was a terrible thing to do. Later, Juno's parents serve him the biggest and most expensive piece of meat they can possibly find, because they want him to eat as much as he can and regain his strength. That night, Juno's mother decides to invite people from the neighborhood over for dinner as well, and the first guests to arrive are the butcher, Mr. Park, along with his family. As soon as Mr. Park sees Juno, he asks why Juno looks so skinny, which makes Juno feel embarrassed and awkward, so he quickly changes the topic by asking Mr. Park about how he gets robbed the other day. Mr. Park explains that the robbers come with a gun, but he also has his butcher's knife with him, so he stands his ground and faces them without backing down. Just then, a few kids from the neighborhood come up to Juno and ask him to sign autographs for them, saying that they are his big fans and want to grow up to be like him someday. Juno tells them that if they really want to be like him, they need to learn wrestling properly from the very basics, and he asks them if their school has a wrestling team. One of the kids answers that the place is currently being controlled by Michael's crew, and those guys keep causing trouble and bothering other people. After hearing this, Juno tells them that instead of fighting unfairly, they should join the wrestling team and defeat them the right way, fair and square, through proper matches. Juno then spends the next 2 weeks staying with his family and enjoying his time at home with them. After the break finally comes to an end, Baku visits Juno to pick him up and casually asks if he enjoys his vacation and gets enough rest during that time. Not long after that, Juno arrives at the gym, where he meets Russell and Cena again after being away for a while. Juno even brings gifts for both of them, and the presents turn out to be bracelets that are comfortable to wear while sleeping. Juno then asks Russell if anything special or important happens while he is on his break, but Russell tells him that their last promotion receives more than 50,000 audience votes. Russell also explains that he is going to face Cena in this week's show, and Juno's role is to step in and help him when the Wyatt family comes in to interrupt the match. After saying this, Russell tells Juno that he and Cena are trying to prepare seriously for the match, but he wants to hear Juno's opinion about their practice. Russell and Cena then continue training together, and while watching them, Juno realizes that Cena's fighting style feels different this time, since he clearly understands what Russell is capable of, and it feels like every single move Cena makes is carefully planned and well choreographed. While Russell leads, he also makes sure that Cena is able to show off his strength wherever it seems to fit. While watching the practice, Juno thinks that both of them have improved a lot compared to before, and he feels slightly proud seeing their progress. All of a sudden, Juno receives a phone call from his mother, who sounds worried and asks him if he happened to tell the kids at the party to break other people's legs. She then explains that the kids went ahead and broke the foot of a boy named Michael, and they told her that Juno was the one who advised them to do it. Juno becomes completely shocked after hearing this and quickly tries to explain to his mother that he never meant anything like that and that he only told them those words as part of self-defense advice. 2 days later, the match between Russell and Cena ends in chaos when it gets interrupted by the Wyatt family. During the fight, Juno suddenly runs into the ring like a hero and starts beating up the Wyatt family to protect and save Russell. At the very same time, Greg arrives once again at the director's office. Russell then admits that in the last match Juno helps him out, but Juno asks him if that is all he wants to say to him right now. He asks Russell to say that he should be at least crying with his head down or doing something emotional like that, but Miss Shelby says that it is much better to see him acting like this instead. Miss Shelby is the professional who is in charge of the Partnership Improvement Program, and she is the character that is being acted out by Rebecca Watson in the show. Miss Shelby then says that she does not think she is needed here anymore with them, but the boys say that they actually do need her to stay around. Juno thinks to himself that during his past life Miss Shelby does way better than they all expect her to do in this role. The next day, Juno runs into Rebecca and tells her that she does a good job with her performance, but Rebecca tells Juno that he is also cool because of him and his work. She gains some popularity as well for herself. Juno then offers her a drink, saying that it is her that does well here with everything. Rebecca Watson is a British actress, and due to her good looks and appearance, many people are interested in her. And more importantly, she is very passionate and has a strong desire to be successful in this industry. In his past life, Rebecca is a little clumsy with her techniques, and there is even an accident during one of the matches where she breaks her neck badly. Juno keeps on staring at her while she drinks her cola, thinking to himself that in his past life she is someone with way more potential than someone like him, and if he gets a chance, he should definitely teach Rebecca some important techniques. Juno then tells her that if she ever needs anything at all, he can help with things like practice sessions, so Rebecca says that she is actually looking forward to it a lot. Just then, a guy comes over and informs Juno that the director is looking for him right now, and not only is he looking for him, but he is also looking for Russell as well. Juno wonders why he would call him Russell when he checked all the work over by Baku, but he still believes that something is weird, as there might be a special reason behind it. Sometime later, Juno and Russell enter the director's office to find out that Greg Hart is actually there. Seeing him, both of them are completely stunned and wonder what he is doing here. Juno quickly extends his hand to greet him, saying he is Juno who works at GCW, but Greg says that he knows about him as he heard he is a prominent and problematic child. Greg then says that he cannot simply ignore someone like Juno, especially since Juno's amateur chant has even spread all the way to the main stage. Greg explains that he has actually faced many problems because of Juno's actions, so he apologizes to him honestly, but at the same time, Juno believes that he has also caused trouble for the main guy and now has to accept and face the results of what he has done. Even so, Greg reaches out and shakes Juno's hand, then says that if Juno truly feels sorry, he cannot play the role of an antagonist anymore, because that kind of influence is something Greg has not seen in a long time. Greg then tells Juno that he is leaving his nephew, Russell, in Juno's care and trusting him with that responsibility. After that, Greg explains that he was supposed to be on vacation, but he comes here because there is something very important he needs to handle, and that important person is Juno, since he wants to work with him. Greg also says that he wants to teach his nephew a few important things, but he feels that Russell is slowly going down the wrong path, and Juno feels unhappy about that situation as well. Later on, Greg takes Juno out to a practice session and tells him to distribute his power at the right moment when he is in the fighting ring. Greg then tells him to think about the back body drop technique because it is a simple and easy skill to get the attention of the people watching. Greg then shows the skill by pushing Juno towards the rope, and as he runs back towards Greg, he just bends down a bit and throws Juno high up in the air, and then he gets smashed hard on the ground below. Juno thinks to himself that he feels like he is getting sucked in right before he is thrown into the air, but then he tells Greg to try it one more time with him. Juno then tries to hit Greg with an attack, but he dodges the attack easily and smashes him on the ground once again. However, Juno then thinks about the aesthetics of the moment, like moving quickly only during the exact moment when applying the techniques, and in order to create a more effective impact on the audience. While it does not seem like much at first, it is like production work in a movie scene. Greg then asks Juno when he thinks he actually applies power during the move, so others quickly say that it is either when he lifts him up or when he gets his arm around him. Greg then asks Juno about it directly, but he says that he is going to try it himself to figure it out, so Greg says that they should do the same thing again together. Greg then grabs Juno's shoulders tightly and tries to push him forward, making Juno think to himself that Greg already has a good idea about what to do. However, he knows that in order to do it better and more effectively, he is going to need to practically do it more times with practice. He then pushes Juno to the ground with force, but Juno tries his best to resist it with all his strength, and then he manages to smash Greg on the ground instead. Juno then asks him how it is and if he likes the way he does it, but Greg does not believe at all that Juno actually manages to smash him on the ground like that. Greg then says that the moment he still is way too long, and he needs to make it such that the opponent cannot even feel it happening, and that way it does not look off or awkward either to the audience. Juno adds on to that by asking why it is easier for him to ease into the fall smoothly, so Greg says that it has to do with the subconscious mind as his body is doing it instinctively without even thinking about it. Afterward, Greg asks Juno what he thinks is the most important thing here in this technique, so he says that it is just falling properly as he thought it was something really important to master. Later that day, Greg meets with the director in his office and tells him that everyone else on the roster needs a lot of improvement in their skills. He says that Husky needs a whole lot of improvement the most as he really needs to lose some weight from his body. In the end, Greg tells director that once this tag team is over, he wants to take Juno with him. Greg then reveals that the real reason he comes here is to carefully observe Juno himself and see what kind of person and performer he truly is, but the director points out that if Greg takes Juno away, then Russell will end up being placed in a very uncomfortable and difficult situation. However, Greg responds by saying that if his nephew ends up collapsing or failing because of this situation, then that simply shows the true limit of how far his talent can really go. He also explains further that the main ring is full of politics, and if Juno starts receiving even a small amount of unwanted attention, Greg will immediately stop everything without hesitation. The director believes that out of all the different areas currently growing within GCW, Juno stands at the center of it all, and if they continue with the current storyline, they can build a powerful and impressive story that can easily last for at least an entire year. After thinking this through, the director calls Juno to ask for his thoughts and opinion on the matter, but Juno immediately responds by clearly saying that he is going to decline the offer without any hesitation. Juno says that he still has so much to learn before he can make it to Maine, and his dream is to become a world champion, so he does not want any extra support or help from anyone to get there. It turns out that getting onto Maine is not Juno's real goal, but his actual goal is to create a stable career within this wrestling field, build up a strong image for himself, and be successful in the long run. So, if he does not do that right now, he is going to lose any attention from fans in the long run and eventually fall under the influence of external sources and other people. The director then tells Juno to leave the office as he is going to call him if there is something important that comes up. Juno thinks to himself that the effect of promotions is really immense because not even 5 minutes have passed since the commercials say that Greg is going to appear and all of the tickets are already sold out completely. Later on, Greg tells Russell that it is going to be better for him if he distances himself from Juno because he has no honor as a wrestler and has no faith in anything. After that, the number of tickets that are sold and the speed at which they are getting sold is all possible because all of Greg's fans do not watch the GCW show. Soon enough, the fans in the crowd start booing really loudly at Juno, who is supposed to be the hero everyone is cheering for today. Juno then tells the director to make the orders so Greg can actually fight in the ring, but the director says that these are orders from the top and Greg is not allowed to participate except in segment and promotion matches. The director also says that even if Juno has to fight with Greg, there is not going to be any benefit from that because he is just going to get booed even more by the angry crowd. Juno says that he is going to face him with Russell because it is also going to create an interesting story for everyone. However, Greg likes the idea a lot and decides to do what Juno plans and suggests to him. Afterward, all three of them get to the stage where Juno makes fun of Greg, saying that the reason he gets here is because he is looking for a successor as he is getting really old now. Juno then walks towards Russell and tells Greg that Russell is going to be even greater than him in the wrestling world. Russell gets weird and confused and asks Juno why he is bringing him up in a situation like this right now. Juno then tells him that he should use the history that is passed down by his uncle in a new and different way. However, Greg gets furious and angry and says that it does not matter what they talk about right now, so it is better that they should just come at him and fight. Greg then quickly charges towards Juno and manages to beat him up with strong attacks. He then grabs Russell's arm tightly and tries to break it with force, but Juno hits him from behind to stop him. Greg then manages to take down Juno to the ground, but at that exact moment, Russell jumps at Greg with his elbow attack from behind. Juno and Russell are now taking turns attacking Greg with their combined moves, but it turns out that Greg is instead subduing the two of them with his superior skills. After beating them up pretty badly, Greg picks up the microphone in his hand and says that if Russell and Juno are going to declare something big like this, they need to have the achievements first to back it up. He also tells them that in the next pay-per-view event, they should become the tag team champions like they are claiming. Hearing that statement, Juno thinks to himself that this is exactly the line he requests from Greg to say, and they have something new to overcome now, another task they need to complete together as a team. Thanks to Greg and his help, they gain some new fans who are interested in them, and they are going to become the tag team champions in the next pay-per-view event. The next day, Juno, Russell and Cena all come to say goodbye to Greg and thank him for everything he does for them. Greg then asks him where he learned everything he knows about wrestling, so Juno says that his start is from indie wrestling shows, but Greg says that it is hard to believe that it is indie because the moves he is using mostly seemed like the moves of experienced people who have been wrestling for years. Just like that, after the end of the show, Greg moved to the next location of the show by WWF and he really put in the work during his vacation time for the benefit of the GCW. Later on, Juno and Russell continue with their practice sessions together, thinking that tag team wrestling is where 4 wrestlers with teams of 2 fight versus each other in the ring. It is a match where they fight one-on-one and tag out with their teammates and continue the fight back and forth. 1 week ago, Juno tells Russell that they are the first tag team in the company, so they have to try their best to show off some really cool moves to the fans. He suggests that they should make 4 different moves together, but Russell says that he wants them to develop his character more in a more cowardly way or into someone who really likes flashy techniques a lot. Russell further tells him that for fancy technique moves, he is hoping that he would use the shooting star press, which is a hard move that requires both flexibility and skill to pull off correctly. Russell then shows his new move to Juno and Cena in the practice area, but Juno says that the name for his new finish move could be Crescent because it suits it really well. 1 week later, the first tag team match where Juno and Russell start to work together finally happens in the ring, and due to the continuous rule violations of the Lucha Kings team members, the referee is deterring them and warning them from doing it again and again during the fight. Russell then tags Juno, who enters the ring like a monster with lots of energy and power and quickly smashes the Lucha Kings with powerful attacks all around the ring. Juno manages to show some amazing performance in the ring with his skills and techniques, and finally the crowd starts cheering loudly for Juno and Russell as a team together. Juno manages to beat up one of the Lucha King members badly, but then the other one charges him with an attack. He then completely dodges his attack and kicks him straight in the body, so he gets easily subdued by a simple knee kick to the ground. The guy who is down on the mat is not doing anything at all, and everyone wonders if he is waiting for something to happen next. On the other hand, Russell goes to the top turnbuckle rope, and it seems like he is going for an air move from up high. This is the move that is created from the hit that Juno gets from Cena before, and it is called subdue the opponent with a knee kick first, and then Russell continues with his shooting star press technique afterward. Russell then jumps straight towards the guy on the ground below, and then he manages to win the match by pinning him down on the mat successfully. A couple of days later, in the semi-finals of the tag team tournament, 2 members of Team Wyatt are defeated by their opponents. Wyatt himself comes to celebrate the victory with his team. Their next opponent is the Juno and Russell tag team coming up. The next match will be interesting to watch because everyone wonders if Juno and Russell will be able to defeat these monsters in the ring. Baku tells the match participants that their match time is 30 minutes long. This is a match from impressive newcomers, and the winning team will earn the right to challenge the defending champions of GCW for the belts. The goal of the match is to get 3.5% of spectators watching. On match day, the arena is filled with more than 20,000 people sitting on standing ground everywhere. Wyatt's team enters the ring wearing their masks proudly, and Russell gets into the ring, and his partner is Juno. The hall explodes with shouts of their team name over and over again. The match began with intensity. Russell and the opponent stand in different corners of the ring, and at the same time they launch an attack at each other. Juno and Cena stand outside the ring watching. Russell gets elbowed by Eddie hard. At the same time, Russell kicks Eddie in the leg in response. Eddie falls from the kick. Russell lands a precise kick to the legs again. Russell grabs Eddie's ankle and starts applying a submission hold onto him. The capture is excellent and tight. Eddie breaks free from the hold with force. What impressive strength he has to escape. Russell loses his balance and falls to the mat. Cena jumps into the ring and hits Russell as hard as he can from behind, and it's an amazing teamwork from Cena and Eddie because they do not let Russell breathe or recover. Cena grabs Russell's hand and throws him onto the ropes hard. Russell screams in pain from the impact. Russell pushes off the ropes and attacks Cena running at him. Cena runs towards him in response. The fighters collide in the middle of the ring with force. The two of them knocked each other back on the cross line from the collision. They must have taken a lot of damage from that. They both go to their respective corners slowly. It looks like they need a replacement tag partner now. Russell crawls weakly towards Juno's hand, trying to reach him for the tag. Juno hurries him to move faster. Wyatt's team is the first to change fighters successfully. Eddie rushes to the ring quickly. Russell's position becomes dangerous without help, but Russell manages to switch and tag Juno in time. Eddie meets Juno's knee strike to the face, and Eddie tips over and falls to the mat. Juno grabs Eddie and throws the stronger and larger opponent far away from himself easily. Without giving Eddie time to recover at all, Juno quickly approaches him and pins his shoulders to the floor for the count. The judge starts counting the pin, but the lights in the hall go out suddenly. When the lights come on again, Wyatt is standing in the arena menacingly, and all the fighters are lying on the floor exhausted from an attack. Russell, who is outside the ring, loses consciousness from something. Even the judge loses consciousness on the mat. Now he will not be able to disqualify the bully Wyatt for interference. Wyatt commands Cena to finish off his opponents right now. Cena runs up to Juno, and he whispers to Cena to act more gently with the moves. Afterward, Team Wyatt lifts Team Juno and Russell onto their shoulders together. They are now using the technique that Juno created in training before. It is as if two glasses collide with each other in a toast. An interesting technique where you can hit two opponents at once at the same time. The spectators freeze in horror at the impact as Juno, lying on the floor, thinks that despite the fact that the trick is performed perfectly, it is very painful to take. This is some kind of extraordinary skill they have. Team Wyatt overwhelms Juno and Russell with their powerful and monstrous skill in the ring. Juno and Russell cannot stand it anymore and they both end up outside the ring from the beating. Bobby walks into the arena and shouts that he has waited so long to meet Wyatt. Bobby immediately attacks Wyatt, not allowing him to come to his senses or defend. He throws Wyatt to the floor and starts beating him relentlessly. He punishes the match violator flawlessly with strikes. Wyatt just covers himself with his hands trying to protect his face. Wyatt is hopelessly defeated, and his team is at a loss for what to do. Russell and Juno come to their senses and pull Eddie and Cena out of the ring by their legs to stop them. The audience cheers and shouts endlessly for Juno and Russell's team name over and over. Russell and Juno stand in the ring again as the crowd cheers for them. Bobby drags Wyatt backstage, and when the interference is eliminated, the match continues on. Juno and Russell inflict enormous damage on their opponents with their moves, but Eddie grabs a chair and runs at Juno while he is fighting with Cena. Eddie hits him from behind with a chair hard, and then Cena attacks him with a knee to the face right after. The fight is already outside the ring now and Juno is attacked from two sides at once. Juno suddenly rises from below and grabs both opponents and holds them down in place. Jumping from such a high crescent position is like risking life with danger. Russell seems frozen in midair during the jump. This technique is only possible if all team members have great trust in each other to execute. Russell lands on the team of Wyatt with the move, and Juno catches him safely after. The commentator screams about Russell's dizzying crescent move. At this time, the judge regains consciousness and begins the countdown for the pin. The match ends in victory for the Juno and Russell team. In the locker room, Juno asks Baku if the match is worth the advertising costs they spend. He replies that the match is amazing and justifies everything they invest. At this time, the employee brings in today's ratings for the show to review, and the best rating of 32% is when Greg is on the show before. A guy then walks towards a hotel room and knocks on the door of the room, and Greg Hart answers it from inside. The receptionist says that Mr. Greg receives an urgent fax from someone named Juno. Greg thanks the receptionist and showers him with compliments, saying that he is a passionate fan of Greg Hart. The sounds of a fight are heard from the next room over. The wrestlers find out who should shine brighter during the match coming up. It often happens that wrestlers fight over who will be better accepted by the public and fans. While most of the fighters in the GCW are friends with each other, the WWF is a battleground in which it is difficult to survive and succeed. Juno sends Greg the rating of the last match. It amounts to 4.1% viewership. This is the highest rating they get so far. Juno goes into the gym room and meets Russell there working out. Russell is in great shape, and he surpasses his star uncle in skills. All they have to do is become tag team champions next. They are called by two wrestlers named Montez and Angelo from the Street Times team. These are experienced wrestlers who enjoy causing chaos during their matches for entertainment. They are the current GCW tag team champions holding the belts. The match between Street Times and Juno and Russell's team receives a lot of praise from everyone. The guys dress up in other people's costumes, and the audience really likes it a lot. Additionally, the fighters' legs are tied during this match for comedy. There are no rules that prohibit leg tying, so the fighters do not violate anything at all. Montez jumps to Russell but loses his footing, and falling he hits him with his head in the stomach. They hit each other as they fall together. The commentator asks if it is even considered that they beat each other like that, and both fighters lay on the floor, and the referee begins the count for the pin. Juno begins his work and grabs the judge by the leg and drags him out of the ring. The judge insists to him that it is not in the script at all. But Juno replies that the audience will love it anyway. Angelo keeps up with Juno and pulls out the hidden tape they have. The guys tie the legs of the judge to the joyful screams and laughter of the audience watching. Montez and Russell lie in the ring and swear at their partners for the chaos. Angelo is delighted with the match because it is a lot of fun. The tag team championship match is not only funny but also interesting to watch. Flying knee strike from Juno hits Angelo in the neck hard. It is followed by crescent from Russell, which falls from a height onto the lying Angelo below. The judge counts for the pin, which makes the audience rejoices at the result. Winners are announced as Russell, Hart and Juno. That surprises everyone. Some people might think it is all fake, like costumes that are changed for greater effect, or overacting to create the mood, or a match with a predetermined result. And then everything related to planning like cinema or theater can also be called fake too. But everything the guys show to the public is real effort and skill. Juno and Russell become the best fan favorite team in the GCW, and this is the first of many belts that Kim Juno is going to earn. Two older men are discussing the match and saying it is good entertainment. They say that a character like Juno will add flavor to the team, but there is one problem: that he is too close to the younger Hart family member. One of the men says that they should not worry about the Hart family and he will bring Juno to the team anyway. Baku listens as Juno is told that t-shirt sales are going through the roof and his salary is $50,000 now. The older man tells Juno that this is very little for such a fighter like him, and he deserves better compensation. This man is Triple H, a figure who controls not only the WWF's past and present but also its future direction. Juno thinks that if he goes to Triple H, it will definitely give him a chance to succeed even more. Triple H invites Juno to work with him on his team. Juno thinks about it carefully. He wants to make the GCW he calls home a better place for everyone. In order to prove to the whole world the value of every fighter present here, and in the end make Juno worth more than in his previous life before. Juno is the man who will become the god of professional wrestling eventually. Afterward, Russell is lying in the ring, and Juno tries to lift him up carefully as he yells that Russell is an idiot and overdoes it and asks did something really bad happen to him during the fall. Russell opens his eyes and asks Juno not to be an idiot about it. Juno carries the injured Russell backstage in his arms, but Russell, holding back his laughter, quietly asks Juno to marry him as a joke. Juno really wants to throw Russell on the floor with all his might for that comment. Baku shouts in delight that the ratings are growing well, t-shirts are selling fast, and Juno and Russell's team is the best team they have. He says that the guys are the kings of capitalism who can do anything for money and success. A few weeks ago, Triple H told Juno that he does not want to disparage GCW, but WWF is a better place for him to be. He says that Baku and Harley should understand what is best for Juno and think about his offer seriously. Harley tells Juno that this is a good opportunity for him to advance. But Juno replies that he should not rush into it without thinking. The next issue he and Harley are deciding is how to get permission from the authorities to increase the capacity of the show by 2,000 seats by renting a large stadium space. Harley says management decides to look into the matter if ratings rise to 10% viewership. At the moment the rating is 6% only. Juno thinks about it, wondering how to gain other 4% more. Harley says he has a plan involving betrayal, bloodshed, and violence, and such a scenario will only target adults watching. Juno replies that he has another plan instead, a show that families will watch together. That is what business needs. This is necessary in order to revive the era of all generations of fans. There is a period in professional wrestling when wrestlers with bad guy images retire from the scene. At that time the victory of good over evil begins to triumph in the ring, and children can watch the show safely. And this time is called the age of all generations of viewers. Cena becomes one of its representatives in the future. Harley says he will let the wrestlers think about what the new scenario will look like going forward. The guys begin to create an image working as hard as they can, creating regional championships, congratulating children on their birthdays, attracting celebrities, and more activities. Juno is in the ring to welcome the state of Georgia fans. Ordinary workers joyfully greet the wrestling fighters in the ring with cheers. The number of spectators is constantly growing week by week. In addition, GCW announces an additional recruitment of fighters, and those who pass the casting join them on the roster. It is surprising for Juno to see Adam among the newcomers, who immediately attack Juno and call him an arrogant brat. Turns out, Adam Silverland is the friend Juno has been with since he left home. The one who deceives and bullies Juno after his professional debut in his previous life timeline. Adam wants all the attention to be on him right now. He shouts that Juno is an Asian guy and punches him in the face hard. Juno does not forget that this guy gives him a laxative sandwich back then. Adam yells that Juno does not think he is popular enough and he will kill him for that insult. He demands that Juno tell his superiors to give Adam a promotion at once. The question comes from behind, asking what is going on here. All the wrestlers gather in the locker room to see. Eddie asks Adam if he is a newbie who just arrived today, but Sheamus asks if he is crazy for attacking someone. Currently, Baku enters the locker room and tells Juno that they need to resolve important issues together. He pushes Adam away with his hand in passing. He tells Bobby to take care of the new guy, and Bobby immediately gets down to business with him. Adam realizes that life is not going to be a success here. Later that day, the director holds a meeting where it said that GCW gradually begins to reduce the level of violence in the show and is preparing a new family show for everyone. On this show they begin to make the wishes of sick children come true as a special feature. Willie dreams of meeting Bobby Ashley and they meet in person. Willie also meets Cena, and this meeting is very joyful for the child to experience. Willie wants to perform in the ring, and his wish comes true when they let him. He hits Wyatt with all his might and Wyatt screams in pain and he falls into the ring pretending to be hurt. Everyone screams that Willie knocks out Wyatt with his powerful attack. The nurse who accompanies Willie says that she does not understand professional wrestling before this, but now she sees that their work is hard and good for the community. On the radio show All About Wrestling, the hosts say that the duo of Juno and Russell should hand over the title this time, despite the fact that they are the most popular team right now. Afterward, the commentator talks about Juno and Russell's tag team and how they are the most popular team right now in the entire wrestling scene. On top of that, there is also going to be a match in a place with 10,000 seats available in the pay-per-view event, but the other commentator asks if there will be a problem if they split up as a team. The commentators then decide to bring up a story about a GCW player who dies shortly after appearing on the show at the young age of 6 years old. The boy's name is Willie, and his parents thank Juno for giving his son a good memory before he passes away. Willie is not in a good condition from the beginning of his life, and they say he closes his eyes really comfortably after achieving his dream of meeting his hero. After a while passes, Juno returns to his daily life and thinks that he should slowly disband the tag team with Russell, and only then can the show develop and grow into something bigger. However, if he does that right now, it will be like betraying Willie and trampling on the dreams and hopes of young fans everywhere. Juno and Russell continue to win matches together as a team, and the total number of audience members is now 10,384, and the media praises their success a lot, and the upper-level management has begun to pay attention to the commerciality of GCW now. Later on, the director holds a meeting with everyone and informs everyone that he has one piece of bad news and the good news to share. The director says that there has been an order to move the stadium location from next week because their stadium can only accommodate 1,000 people, and they need a larger stadium with 2,000 people capacity for the growing crowd. For the bad news part, the director says that they want Juno to come up to the main roster soon. Hearing that, everyone gets surprised, but the director says that the WWF's current director directly gives the order, Loidas, but Juno thinks to himself that it is not him but Triple H who is the guy behind all of this decision. Juno further thinks to himself that he does not know what the management of the affiliated organizations is planning right now, but with Willie, Russell, and Triple H, it is a situation where they cannot easily choose one person over the others. Just then, Juno receives a text message from Ebony who calls him to come to the bar to meet her. Juno then goes to the bar for the first time in a while, as he goes to a bar like this quite a lot in his past life before. Ebony then asks Juno why he not visits the orphanage to meet with other kids as well like he does with Willie before, but Juno says that the kids might get scared of him. Moving forwards in their conversation, Ebony asks Juno about his and Russell's tag team disbanding news that is going around, but Juno asks how she knows about that news, so she says that it is because her daughter really likes watching them perform together. 2 weeks later, an accident happened that no one expected as Juno made every child in Georgia cry. Afterward, Juno says that he is now main event, a fighter who competes in the main match at the end of the show, but there is one reason why Juno cannot be called the main star of this event yet. This reason is the tag team partnership, because there is an opinion that performers participating in teams cannot perform alone successfully. The audience expects that the guys will soon disband the team together. The whole question is how they will do it, whether they will become enemies or will they shake hands and calmly go their separate ways peacefully. Baku meets Juno and says that his superiors are putting pressure on him about the storyline. Juno replies that he needs a push to betray Russell in the story. Baku replies that there is still time because not everything is spelled out in the script yet, and he says that he will convey all of Juno's wishes to the writers and management for consideration. For the first time, the weekly GCW show is held in a stadium with 2,000 seats capacity. A tag team championship match happens between the duo of Juno and Russell against Team Wyatt. The guys perform at a faster pace than usual to keep the crowd engaged. Juno grapples with Cena at first, and the match is full of aerial moves and sudden finishes that excite everyone, and that is when Russell wants to perform his finishing move from the top rope. He slips on the rope and is surprised, he turns over in the air awkwardly, and he falls into the ring hard. Juno turns away from Cena and stares at the prone Russell on the mat. Russell cannot get up from the impact. The spectators freeze in alarm at what happens. What happened to him, and no one in the ring can understand what just happens. Cena asks what happened to Russell, but Juno strikes Cena with a chop, and oblique blows to the opponent's chest with a reverse upward motion. The commentators shout that even though Juno's partner is injured, Juno does not care and attacks his opponent anyway. Cena asks what Juno is doing, but he continues to fight hard. He whispers to Cena that he is going to change the show's script right now, and he tells Cena and Eddie to get together and defeat him instead. There are no more than 10 minutes left until the end of the show, and this is enough for the guys to prepare for a counterattack. Harley sees what is happening and says that since Russell is injured, what Juno is doing is the only option they have. Cena hits Juno with a big knee strike to the body, and commentators say that Juno cannot cope without Russell by his side. Even Eddie, who is standing outside the ring, jumps out and attacks Juno as well. At this time, doctors carry Russell away on a stretcher because the injury is serious. How far do you think Juno can go in the WWF with Russell by his side? Comment wrestling if you want to see their rise to the top in the next series. Make sure to like and subscribe the channel for more sports manhwa recaps.